Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of racing in the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship Season 5, brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing, and powered by IMB Racewear. Today marks round 8 of 10 in the championship that continues to answer the question, who is the master or mistress in the front-engine, front-wheel drive touring car racing class machine? And as we gradually start to run out of rounds, with only 3 rounds remaining including tonight, we're here today in the United States of America for the one and only Sebring International Raceway. Making its debut in the NXTCC, have never raced here before in this championship, our drivers are going to be taken on a circuit is one of the oldest in road racing in the United States of America. Located in the US state of Florida, the Highlands County circuit is known best for its rough and rugged road racing surface, with the fact that this circuit is situated on a former military airfield known as the Hendricks Army Base, which is still used today for commercial and private use. But back in the day, it was a circuit which gradually saw the envelopment of a racing course that would stay without history, and indeed throughout history be known as a circuit that's just as difficult to find the road markings at certain points as it is about keeping the car on the surface. Now the reason for the latter is the simple reason is that the road surface around here is combined of two different elements. You have modern asphalt that you'll see on most circuits around the world, but you also have about a third of the racing circuit which is returning to the old school concrete slabs, which are the original foundations of the Hendricks Army Air Base, and those concrete slabs with their connecting joints cause the cars to bump around the suspensions like no other circuit in the world. What that means around here is it's all about making sure to balance out the rough and rugged road surface, get your braking points absolutely right, and as a driver and the car as well, having the stamina to outlast the hardships that you're going to experience around this circuit. And if you can put all that together, you may just come away on top in the racing here. It was what is one of the most difficult circuits on car and driver alike across the world. As our drivers get ready to go racing today, let's take you for our scheduled times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT. Universal Coordinate Time UTC, and as we can see in approximately 18 minutes time, we're going into our qualifying session at 8 o'clock this evening, 15 minutes in duration. All drives out of the circuit, and it's going to definitely get very crowded despite the length of this circuit being just shy of 6 kilometres, or in the latter English, the best part of what is 3 miles. And as our drivers get themselves all set and ready to go, after they've completed qualifying, of course they'll make their way to the grid for our first race of the day. That'll be the first of 3 sprint races, all 9 laps in duration, with the first being at quarter past 8, after which we'll take a brief but not without conducting our reverse grid draw for race number 2. And speaking of race number 2, we'll return at just before 9 o'clock for the build up to our second race of the day. And after that concludes another 9-lap race of Fast and Furious action. We'll be taking a brief but not without our reverse grid draw for race number 3 to wrap up the day. And race number 3 we'll be coming back for, and the build up of will be approximately quarter to 10 this evening. As our drivers get set in the background in their final practice warm-up session, we welcome you all to this broadcast being brought to you live from circuit side via 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, you can be tuning in via one of the 2 official Next Gen Racing media platforms, whether it be on YouTube at Next Gen Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning on YouTube, or alternatively via Facebook at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Facebook. And of course, we do have a third media platform being used, the unofficial broadcast being brought to you on twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. And who is TX141, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. I'm your host and commentator for this season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action tonight, and indeed for the remainder of the season. And what a season it has been so far. And indeed, it's crazy to think that we're only 3 rounds away from bringing the curtain down. But to give you a recap, it is the 9th of January 2024 today, and last week saw the commencement of the final third of the season, when we made our way to the circuit in the Magny-Cours in France on the 2nd of January. But preceding all this, we opened up on the 7th of November 2023. It feels like it was a year ago, and indeed, well, it was a year ago in terms of the number, but only 2 months ago when we started off the season. And that was at the venerable Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit in the British county of Kent. We got to see our drivers take on the Touring Car Racing Classic. But after that, they then made their way over to the United States for the first time this season for the Circuit of the Americas, and we went away back to the West layout, a very much like layout of the circuit. And the 14th of November, we got to see battles of plenty and track limits catch out many a driver, but we then made our way southwards to South America, and in particular the Brazilian circuit of the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, previously featured in Season 2 of the NXTCC and making its return on the 21st of November. And then we had our first mid-season break before we returned on the 5th of December for what we like to refer to as Canadian Thruxton, but more so known properly as Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and the fast and sweeping bends and the undulations of the Canadian circuit, definitely catching out many a driver, but also leading some absolutely thrilling battling. And then we made our way over to Germany for a double header to wrap up our run to Christmas Day. And the 12th of December, starting that doubleheader in Germany with the Nürburgring GP Strecke, and then making away to the neighbouring Oschersleben circuit, the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben on the 19th of December. And Germany definitely delivered some surprises in both of the rounds there. And indeed, in all 6 races, we got to see some major stars have upsets. And on top of that, some unexpected drivers take victories in turn, or at least podiums. And therefore, it has set the scene for the final third of the season. And as we mentioned only moments ago, with the fact we returned after the Christmas break at the Circuit de Magny-Cours last time out. And today we're at the Sebring International Raceway for the second and final time in the US of A this season, and we return to the United Kingdom for the final 2 rounds, beginning on the 16th of January with round number 9 at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and it's the first time we'll ever be taken to the full Grand Prix layout of the heart of British motorsport, and then we're going to be making the way to the heart of British motor racing, and that's the Donington Park circuit, but returning to the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit on the 23rd of January, and we had to put this at the end of the calendar in tribute to the fact that the Grand Prix layout of Donington Park, after a long hiatus, is going to be returning to the full calendar of the British Touring Car Championship in the real world as of 2024, and therefore it's our way of paying tribute to the return of an absolutely brilliant and historical circuit. But as we get ready to go racing today, let's give you a recap of the championship standings after what is 7 rounds of racing, and we begin with the overall Drivers' Championship. And here we can see it's Wojciech Swirydowicz who leads the way on 689 points to the 667 of Mikey Doble. Doble has leapt his way back into P2 after 2 wins in France last week. Swirydowicz meanwhile picking up 1 win in return and also a consistent haul of points. And with drop scores, of course, being in effect, with there being 1 drop score round over the course of the season, right now Swirydowicz is looking comfortably in the lead, albeit Doble is trying to keep him honest as best as possible. And by leaping ahead of Daniel Martin, who sits only a further 8 points behind, will it be Doble who leads the championship after today? Albeit keep in mind, of course, the success balance that he will now find placed on the car. Daniel Martin, the RD Simsport driver, you can't count him out in P3, as right now it does look as though the top 3 are gradually pulling away from the rest of the field. As speaking of the rest of the field, a further 53 points behind, it's led by Jaroslav Sabula. The Semper Racing driver, matching the aspirations of his teammate who's leading the championship, indeed demonstrating his prowess in the Hyundai Veloster, and he's ahead of Adam Delmont there, who completes the top 5 on 579 points. But now how close it is from Adam Delmont all the way through to where's Gavin Garner in P10, with the top run of 6 drivers there, concluding the top 10 being separated by the region of 78 points. And between Delmont and Gardner is the grouping of Benjamin McCluskey, Dan Mould, Jamie Dory and Joseph Doble, and Gardner there being one of 2 Audis inside the top 10, with of course Jamie Dory being the other one, and the Audi RS3 drivers really eager to try and score some major points and push their way back towards the top 5. Outside the top 10, meanwhile, Paul Zanatachi sits in P11 still, fighting furiously to break back into the top 10, but for every achievement he's made in the Affinity Racing Veloster, he's also had some difficulty, and he sits there on 485 points, but he's well clear of Lee Horn, who sits in P12 in a bit of a no man's land, but very quickly being hounded now by William Guthrie, who sprung a few surprises in France, and some fantastic drives from Guthrie over the last couple of rounds have definitely boded well. Isaac Doble, meanwhile, our leading Pro-Am driver, sits in P14 on 370 points, and he holds quite the favourable advantage over Nick Clemens, who wraps up the top 15 by 49 points, and then it's Luciano Vitfoot there, P16, ahead of second Pro-Am driver Alex Meredith, with Daniel Dannon closing fast, only a further 11 points behind in the Pro-Am class. We now have Matthew Addy and Reese Watt completing the top 20. Reese Watt's 241 points being followed up by P21 driver Sam Smith, only a further point behind, as the iRacing Sports driver looks to break back into the top 20 today. And then we have Ben Altry ahead of Russell Fowler in at P22, with Martin Shirley and Sam Knowles completing the top 25. Andrew Pyatt sits P26 ahead of Alan McCain, with Ian Maz, Jay Clay and Fraser Elphick completing the top 30. We didn't see Giclée on the grid last time out in France, and therefore he's back today, all set up and ready to go. But outside the top 30, Paul Scott sits P31 ahead of Duncan Moraes, with Matthew Sheraton P33, John Higgins Jr. P34, not on the grid, but hopefully returning today. Or if not today, we'll definitely see him in brown number 9, I do believe. And Michael Lee completes the run to P35. We have then Stephen Fry in P36, unfortunately not expected to be on the grid today due to personal circumstances. I can definitely tell you that Stephen Fry is doing A-OK. He's just not quite able to make the races today, and we look forward to seeing his return next week. Alex Everett, meanwhile, P37 on 78 points, now holding a considerable advantage over Wayne Douglas, with then it is none other than Harry Bicknell, P39, ahead of Mark Sykes, P40, to complete what is your top 40 on 39 points. There is the Mark Sykes Designs driver, and then outside the top 40, not to be forgotten about, Raffles Arch, P41, ahead of Luke Jones, with Dale McQueen, P43, ahead of Craig Tillotson, and then we can see it is none other than Harry Gaylor, P45, ahead of Mark Kent, with Piotr Jegoslewski, P47, with some loss of points last time out in race number 1 due to an absence of race data from the car, I do believe, and then Jarford Collins, Jake Pitt and Callum Jenkins completing your top 50. James Spencer's Gal, P51, ahead of Dom Joy, with Nigel Scott Malcolm And then George Watson, Peter Greenwood, Gabriel Yilmaz, Ian Wood and Adam McNally completing your championship standings. We then come onto the Prime class, and here in the IMB Racewear Championship, as it's dubbed in reference to our title sponsor for this season, Wojciech Doble leads the way by 60 points over Daniel Downing. Now, there was plenty of surprises at Magny-Cours, it must be said, in the Prime class, but the one surprise that was not there was Wojciech Doble having a difficult day, and indeed, Doble once again showing how strong his consistency has been and how he's matured over the course of what was the transition from Season 4 to Season 5, and right now he is earning the status of being the favourite for the title with 3 rounds remaining. However, do not count out Daniel Downing, and right now he will be the man to watch this season for Goldwing Motorsports, as he's got the bit between his teeth, as the saying goes, in the fact that he could have had the win in race number 2 at Magny-Cours, but through exceptional circumstances lost out in the final lap and lost what could have been a huge haul of points to his championship campaign, so therefore he's going to look to bounce back today. Matthew Addy meanwhile sits in P3 on 667 points, the best part there of was 13 ahead of Alex Meredith. Another driver as well had a difficult time at Magny-Cours, despite the fact he was one of the biggest overtakers, in fact the biggest overtaker of the day at Magny-Cours, making more overtakes than anybody else. Whoever got in his way found his way through, but Meredith not being rewarded with the points he expected as a result, and now sitting in P4, the best part of 7 points clear Ben Altria, with Alan McCain just outside the top 5 there in P6 on 609 points. It's 5 points from him to Sam Van Ols, with Sam Smith a further what is the best part of with 26 points behind, and it's Matthew Sheraton and Duncan Rise who complete your top 10, and outside the top 10 by 6 points, Jay Calais on a return today in P11 ahead of Paul Scott, with Stephen Fry P13 and holding off Harley Bicknell for now, but I can imagine that Bicknell will try and overturn that deficit today and get ahead of Fry, with Mark Sykes completing your top 15. Alex Everett, Fraser Elphick, Luke Jones, Craig Tillerston and Rafael Zarch complete your top 20, and outside the top 20 it's Andrew Holmes ahead of Jonathan Collins, James Percival, Peter Greenwood and what is Callum Jenkins to P25, and on 104 points Piotr Jegoslewski ahead of Ian Wild, with Mark Kent, George Watson and Harry Gaylor completing your top 30, and then to complete the stands it's Jake Pitt ahead of Scott Malcolm, with Gabriel Yilmaz, Nigel Stott and Dom Joy completing the standings. But then last but not least, let's come on to the Teams Championship, and the update here is that NXTGEN Racing Pink lead by only 8 points ahead of Semper Racing. Indeed, it could not be closer between these two teams at the top of the standings, but to be fair, it'd be rude of us not to also consider Double Sim Racing or SRL NXTGEN in the mix there. Indeed, our top 4 separated by less than 100 points currently, and indeed, that's enough points accrued over a given race winner round, let alone the entire round of racing, so therefore it could go any which way between the 4, and NXTGEN Pink will hopefully be thinking in their minds today that they can break away, albeit Semper Racing will have something to say about that, and don't count out Double Sim Racing or SRL NXTGEN, who could bounce right back into the fight. Hardy Simsport meanwhile sit in P5 and continue to try and convert that position into their foundation for the rest of the campaign on 1,052 points. They hold a slender advantage over the combination of Brabham Esports, Performance Link Esports and Affinity, although keep in mind this battle for P5 is far from done and dusted. Indeed, it continues to rage on, but Hardy Simsport will be hoping to try and put it to bed gradually now. NXTGEN with Sam Cases stay in P7 on 756, 46 points clear of iRacing Esports, with Full Tilt B Motorsport in the wings there, giving pursuit in the fight for P7, and Goldwing Motorsport not too much further behind in P10 on 555 points. But from them to P11 on 536 points is JW Motorsport, and the fight to be in the top 10 is on here, with the British outfit looking to bounce and break their way back in. How they've got tough competition versus Goldwing Motorsport, who in turn are trying to make their way further up into the top 10, so indeed JW Motorsport will need to do well today. And there's Aztec Racing batting for the right to finish P12 ahead of P739 Motorsports, with Crest Autosport and also the conglomerate of FR20 Sim Racing, Manny Motors, Whiskey Runners Racing and Synergy Sim Racing all fighting for that P12 through to P15 set of positions. But that's how the standings stand after 7 rounds of racing, and now let's come to our circuit for today. For as we can see, we are racing at the international or the full course layout of the Sebring International Raceway, located near the town of Sebring in Highlands County of the US state of Florida. This circuit, spanning the best part of 17 corners, is an absolutely brilliant circuit when it comes to variety, let alone changes of the road surface. Now, as we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, indeed thank you to iRacing for their fantastic simulator and the track maps that come with it. This is a circuit that has a whole host of corners which will put our drives to the test. However, there is a key notable theme with this circuit, and that is overtaking is relegated to specific corners on the circuit. Not every corner is an overtaking opportunity, albeit you can argue it is an overtaking opportunity, albeit some corners come more naturally to overtaking than others. And we're looking to our likes of turn number 1, also the run towards turn number 7 at the hairpin, the run up towards Cunningham at turn number 10, and also the run on down the Allman Straight up towards Sunset Bend at turn number 17. Those are going to be the flashpoints for overtaking, although we can expect some overtakes as well potentially to be attempted at what will be turn number 3 and also turn number 15. So let's Let's not say there's going to be a bit of boredom in overtaking. The battles are definitely going to be intense and plentiful, but it's about when our drivers decide to go for those critical moves that could be all the difference. But as our drivers roar their way around the venerable circuit that opened in 1950, they'll charge their way down the start-finish straight and up towards turn number 1. On this, they'll be making their way along concrete slabs, and as they sweep the way through the long left-hand opening corner, they'll make their way onwards towards the asphalt, up towards a more traditional layout of the circuit at turns 2, all the way up to turn number 13. But as they make their way through the Kinker 2, it's into the heavy braking zone at turn number 3, the sharp left-hand right-angle corner, then proceeding at tight Kinker corners at turns 4 and 5, and as they make their way out at turn number 5, it's flat out through Big Bend at 6, all the way up towards the hairpin at turn number 7. One of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit, if not the heaviest, we'll see our drivers potentially go 2, perhaps even 3 wide at the hairpin. And as they power their way out, they'll make their way through the twists and turns of the hairpin and up through the Fangio complex to turns 8 and 9 for breaking their way into Cunningham at turn number 10. There, a right-hand right-angle corner, they'll make their way through Collier, which is all about balancing the throttle and avoiding the apex curve, which is exceptionally high and will upset cars and cause them to understeer wide. But if they get it right, they'll then come through the right-hander at turn number 12, only to brake immediately for Tower Corner at turn number 13. Then coming through the right-hander and down on to the back straight, they'll charge their way back onto the old concrete slab surfaces of Hendricks Army Air Base at turn number 14 at Bishop, before making their way through the right-hander of 15, which is all about balancing the throttle once again, as the drivers then sweep the way into Le Mans Corner at turn number 16. And as they make their way out of the right-hander, it's onto the Ullman Straight, one of the major overtaking positions, particularly when it comes to slipstream-based overtaking. As our drivers head into Sunset Bend, named after the fact that when the sun sets, it'll be right in the eyes of our drivers when they make their way through the long right-hander, looking for early or late apexes, depending on their preference. There's many a right line through Sunset Bend, but the thing as well, of it being such a wide open corner, we could see up to 4 wide through the corner, but as they power their way out, they'll make their way into the start-finish straight to complete lap and do it all over again. And to give a reminder of the race rules for the uninitiated, this series is a fixed setup series where setups are provided to our drivers ahead of each and every round. Class-wise, the classes were finalised as the conclusion of round number 3, and we have no class changes to report today, although we do have a newcomer on the grid who we will be introducing in qualifying. Sprint race-wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, that's a given. The race 2 grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race number 1, with the reversal position being drawn live from between P6 and P12. Indeed, we'll cut to the commentary booth and we'll do the lottery bowl draw. The race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid, meanwhile, from the results of race number 2, the reversal position being drawn live from between P13 and P23. Now, each driver shall have 1 fast repair available in each race, and we're not expecting any pit stops here unless it sits for repair work, alternative drive-through penalties, more on those in a second, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 9 laps or 30 minutes, whichever one expires first. We are expecting the 9 laps to expire first, totaling about 20 minutes of racing, but if we see multiple safety cars, we will potentially go up to the 30-minute window. Now, on top of this, race stewarding-wise, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races for track limit infringements and deployment of the safety car, and penalties for track limit infringements are as follows. The first and second warnings, they're just warnings, there's no penalty. The third warning, it's a 5-second post-race time penalty, doubled to 10 on the 4th warning, and on the 5th warning, it's upgraded to a drive-through penalty that must be served when 3 laps are being rewarded. Meanwhile, racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round, and as we can see here, success ballast continues to be in effect over the course of this season, as applied on a race-by-race basis in both the overall and also the prime class. And for qualifying in race 1, the success ballast shall be applied based on the championship standings going into this round, whereas in race 2, it will be updated based on the positions where our drivers finish for race 1, and the same applies for race number 3, where we base it on the results of race number 2. And a quick reminder of the success ballast table. On the overall table, on the left-hand side, we can see your championship leader of Swirydowicz will be taking 56.1 kilograms into tonight. Meanwhile, Gavin Garner will be taking in 4.7 kilograms in P10. Meanwhile, in the prime class, it is going to be Wojciech Doble who continues to take the maximum success ballast, and well behind him, Daniel Downing and will be Alex Meredith. They'll take less success ballast in, but you can imagine they'll be eager to try and shift their way around in that championship standings in order to try and get ahead of Wojciech Doble. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all and more in terms of the rules, but we're here for the racing, and as we look to our live pictures right now as our drivers make the way around on circuit, we are only approximately 1.5 minutes away from going into the qualifying session. The first ever qualifying session at Sebring in the NXTCC. We look to Daniel Downing, the Goldwyn Motorsport driver, who today in the Hyundai Elantra will be absolutely fired up and looking to go on the attack here to strike back after what definitely was a challenging day at Magny-Cours. Albeit some great racing, but knowing there were plenty more points on the table, and therefore it is going to be one of those ones where he'll want to make up the lost time as he makes his way on and around and onwards towards another lap shortly of only a minute to go. I don't think he's going to get another lap in, given the lap times around here seem to be in the region and where it's 2:15s on the fastest laps at the moment. Perhaps we'll even see a high 2:14, perhaps a 2:14.9 on the ultimate lap. Well, meanwhile, we do look to Lee Horn here as he makes his way on out to the turn 7 hairpin. And Lee was saying after the racing last time out, when I caught a little bit of a glimpse of the discussions going on down in the paddock, they had a difficult time at Magny-Cours and looking to bounce back today. And well, you can see right now currently P4 in this practice session, albeit practice not always the best indicator of the pace that is to come. But I would imagine for Lee, he's going to be putting down a marker and hoping he can fight his way back into what is the top 10 as a minimum overall, if not the top 5, because that's where he'll feel as though he belongs as he continues his journey, his first ever season in the pro class, being of course our reigning champion from season 4 in the Pro Championship, albeit coming from the Higgins Automotive Championship crown. He won't be able to take on the IMB Racewear crown this season as he's been promoted in class, and therefore will be going to a new driver at the end of this season. But still, Lee's been up to the challenge all season. We look forward to plenty more from him today. And speaking of plenty more to come, ladies and gentlemen, the clock strikes 1 hour, and that means this practice session is complete. Checker flag is out, and now we are only moments away from going to qualifying. Well, it's a sunny day here in Sebring, and in the sunshine state of Florida. Well, who is going to be coming out to the top and putting it on pole? Let's find out. As our drivers make the way out of the circuit, then it's 15 minutes and it's a go, go, go as they all immediately start to make their way into the cars and out of the pit lane as soon as possible. And well, it is going to be a bit of a hurry here because of the length of the lap. And how does that change the dynamic of this qualifying session? Well, we do have to keep in mind this is one of the longest circuits on this season's calendar, only to be rivaled by the likes of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And with that, that does mean our drivers have a much more limited number of laps. Now, we were talking only moments ago about the fact the average lap around here seems to be a 2-minute 15 for the upper tiers of the grid. Well, if you do a little bit of quick mathematics around, if you just base it on a 2-minute lap, 15 divided by 2 goes 7.5. So it effectively means that our drivers have the out lap plus then 7 laps. But then when you add the 15 seconds onto that, well, you do a little bit more mathematical estimation, and you're probably looking at the 1 out lap and the best part of 5 flying. That's perhaps the 6th if you're able to sneak it in there. But the point being, compared to where we were last week at Magny-Cours, we had a little bit more breathing room in terms of number of laps, the lap time not being as long. It does mean that our drivers really will need to be delivering from the outset in this qualifying session. And if they're looking to pick up a tow or work with their teammates, they'll want to start doing so immediately when they go onto their flying. Let's perhaps have 1 banker lap, but after that they'll want to start upgrading the pace, because otherwise they'll run out of time before they get ready to race. And as we do look to steal, what is Wojciech Swirydowicz making his way on through there, coming through Cunningham and Collier, and now up towards Tower Corner. Most of the corners around this circuit being named after drivers who've done well at Sebring over the course of the best part of what is its 73-year history. And indeed, Fangio being perhaps the biggest name there, 4-time Formula 1 champion, I do believe. And well, as we do see what is Wojciech Swirydowicz making his way on through the left hand there. In fact, I think it's 5 times for Fangio. Now that I quickly check my mind, but as we do see our driver here making his way on through Bishop Corner, well, we look from him to one of our drivers who's new on the grid today, our sole newcomer for this season, and it is, well, not for this season I should say, but for this point of the season and for round number 8, and it is none other than Vilmos Blau, as we do see the 402 driver making his way on through what is the run up towards Knock Tower, coming in towards Cunningham Corner, turn number 10, and as he does so, he's going to be competing as a privateer in the Pro-Am class. Welcome to on his debut in the Hyundai Veloster, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on today. And I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, he tuned in only a couple of weeks ago to the NXTCC. We saw him, I do believe, in the YouTube chat, and he was absolutely loving tuning into all the racing, and that's why he's on the grid here. And well, he's making what is a debut in a partial portion of the season, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on as he makes his way into his NXTCC career, as he comes on through and up towards turn number 15 very short before proceeding Le Mans. We also do look to see our drivers now a little bit further up the field, and perhaps some of our more known drivers, including what is Benjamin McCluskey, the next-gen pink driver in the very proud livery, and also photographer for the NXTCC, the official photographer. If you're part of the next-gen racing Discord, you may have seen plenty of his photos, and also the man behind Benji Sim Racing Photos. And as he makes his way through Big Bend right now, as he roars his way up towards turn number 7 here in the Veloster. Which cars are we expecting to go well here today? Well, this circuit does have a lot of power zones to it, and also it does have some very notable corners. So this is going to be a circuit where it more comes down to the driver rather than the choice of car, in the fact the Honda may be slow on the straights, but it can make up a lot of time in the corners. Conversely, the Hyundai Elantra can be very strong all around the lap, given the fact it is one of those cars that's very strong on the lap pace, but alternatively doesn't have the tyre life in the races. So the Elantras will always go well, but then meanwhile the Audis will be very strong on the straights, but they'll lose out in the corners to a degree. And all the likes of Sam Benoist, as we see one of the Audi RS3 drivers here for Goldwing Motorsports making his way on through, or they'll need to balance that. But at the same time as well, this Audi has been seen to go round the corners quite well, and therefore Benoist will be feeling as though that he's got a chance here to potentially put it on the top step of what will be the Pro-Am grid, albeit he'll be waiting to see how those times come on in. Indeed, it's really down to the driver here today how best the toe they can pick up over the course of the qualifying session, as we are almost to the 5-minute mark already, almost a third away through, and that goes to show you how quickly the time trickles away here when you do have that long lap around the Sebring International Raceway. Now, I have noticed it's rather silent in the chats, whether it be on Twitch, Facebook or YouTube, although we do say hello to Racing Game Show there, who says hello in return. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, don't be shy, feel free to say hi, let us know how you're doing. It is bitterly cold at the moment in the United Kingdom. Thankfully, we've got a nice amount of sim racing to warm our hearts tonight, and we'll do let us know who you're cheering on here from circuit side. And as I try to make the way on through, one driver who definitely will not be looking for any more heartbreak today will be what is Alex Meredith, as we do just try to find him out on circuit, albeit he's not out there at the moment. We'll see him in due course, I do believe, but after the difficulties of last week with all the effort expended, I mean, well, as we do see those first times coming on through, Dan Moll sets the initial marker of a 2:16.002, but we believe a whole second can be shaved off of that for the most part, as we do say hello to Handsome Stu, who's always good looking in the YouTube chat, and he's here watching. I'm glad to hear that, Handsome Stu. Always happy to have you with us, but we see our first 2:15 now on the board, a 2:15.665, and this is none other than the Brand B Sports driver here as he makes his way on around, and well, in the wonderful liveried machine there as he heads on down towards the braking zone. And having a difficult season so far indeed. That P12 in the championship stands, not a representation of the pace he's brought to the table, but misfortune and being in the wrong place at the right time in battles in order to lose out and pick up racing instance. And that really has been the story of his season, but sometimes that's the way it goes as a driver in the NXTCC. You can have bad luck, but you can also have phenomenal luck, and indeed phenomenal luck going the way of some drivers at Magny-Cours, and well, perhaps most notably of course Daniel Downing, despite some misfortune at one point in the racing, also had some fortune go his way as well. But that's the way it does go in the real world of motorsport, just as much in the simulated world of motorsport. But Fitford there definitely setting the pace down as they make their way past the run in towards what will be Cunningham Corner very shortly. A beautiful camera angle there to show you the ferocity at which they come through Fangio, and as he makes his way around, meanwhile Alex Meredith here, current provisional pole sitter in the Pro-Am class, and well, the RD Simsport driver we talked about only moments ago having an absolutely dismal day at Magny-Cours, despite being the biggest overtaker on the grid by a huge margin, just not getting the points as a result, and immediately coming out the starting blocks on fire today, currently P9 overall. And well, the closest driver to him in his class right now is Alan McCain, who is the best part of 3 attempts down in P12, but of course we're only at the halfway point in this qualifying session, if that, so therefore there's plenty of time to be made. Meredith will be hoping that he can stay within the top 10 and stay ahead of the rest of his peers for the remainder of this session. As he charged on through, we also look to Hardy Bignall as he comes in towards that turn at number 14, down into Bishop he goes, and as he does, the JW Motorsport driver continue to build up pace and momentum. Indeed, the team have been rooting for him, and indeed a number of supporters have been rooting for him. It's great to see he's got a bit of a fan base tuning in for him as he makes his way on through there in at the number 99 car, a driver who started off the season quite far down in terms of pace, but now is regularly competing for top 10s in the Pro-Am class, and even looking for some top 5s as well here and then when opportunities arise. So we look forward to seeing what Bignall can do on the grid today as he makes his way up towards Sunset Bend into turn number 17, and well, one of the corners. When we ride on board with a driver shortly, you'll get to see just how late you have to brake for Sunset Bend, given the fact the brake markers provided are not truly indicative of where you need to get those anchors on. As he makes his way out the final corner, what's it going to be for Bignall this time around? He's currently the best part of 1.8 seconds down on Daniel Martin's overall pole time in P30, and as he crosses the timeline this time, well, for Bignall it is not going to be an improvement. Indeed, he's going to have to go again, but as he makes his way on through, all the drivers continue to push on around. And well, I can tell you at the moment we do seem to have a bit of an absence on what is our overall championship leader of Swirydowicz, and with that, that might just open up the door and an opportunity to a number of drivers to try and gain ground the championship leader, but also keep in mind that he could use today as his effective drop score. But as our drivers continue on through, current provisional pole sitter is now Daniel Martin. Hardy Simsport for 2:15.411 will continue to come down. He's only 400ths if that faster than Luciano Bitford, so therefore it's getting close at the top, and Jasper Spieler only a further 200 300ths off, but you do have what is almost the best part of the 10th to Joseph Doble on P4, and then Dan Mould a further 300ths off. So that top 5 right now separated by 1.6 tenths. It is marginal, and indeed we have seen over the course of this season the qualifying delta, not just for the top 10, but sometimes all the way up to the top 30 being only 1 second, and you've practically got that here with the top, what is 26, being separated by less than a second. Indeed, to P30, it is a separation of 1.6 seconds, with Wayne Douglas holding P30 at this time. As our drivers make the way down the backstraight, we see Jamie Dory there lifting off, and I do believe letting a number of his rivals on through. As he does so, we jump on board here with Martin Shirley as he goes into the final corner, and he's going to take us around for a flying lap of the Sebring International Raceway. He's making his way out of the final corner, looking to line up his run to perfection as the Honda Civic driver builds up the throttle here now flat out to the timeline. He'll bring the car to the right side to get himself set up for another qualifying lap as he heads in towards turn number 1. No brain mark here, you've got to do a muscle memory, and as he makes his way in, breaking down from 5th into 4th gear, just training off the brakes nice and tight as he now gradually feeds the throttle back in, managing the potential risk of understeer as he heads up towards turn number 3. Through the Kinker 2 and immediate onto the brakes, braking 100 metres from corner apex as denoted by the cones, and as he comes through a left hand now to the right of 4 and onto the brakes again for turn number 5 here, albeit leaving it nice and late, downshift into 2nd, and now powering his way out and into Big Ben, flat out here through turn number 6 and building up the throttle once again as he makes his way in towards turn number 7. Now here's a brief breather, the first third lap is complete, but now the lap starts to build up and open up in terms of the corner variety. Onto the brakes, he'll go for the hairpin, braking 150 metres from corner apex, all the way down to first gear on the apex, and as he powers his way out straight line between the 2 kinks that exit the hairpin, and as he charges his way up through Fangio, flat out here through the right, and into left at turn number 9 before getting ready for Cunningham at turn number 10. He'll keep the car over to the left hand side as he exits turn number 9. The braking zone needs to be set up immediately, and onto the brakes he goes 150 metres from corner apex down to 2nd gear, takes a little bit of apex curve there, albeit you can see it unsettles the suspension of the Honda as he now makes his way through Collier corner, mounting those curves as much as he dares up to 4th gear into the right hander at turn number 12, and sets up the braking zone here for Tower corner, braking 100 metres from corner apex, 2nd gear, uses the entry curve there to open up the corner on exit as well to widen the exit as he now powers his way back up the gearboxes to charge in towards turn number 15. But not out firstly, the return to concrete slabs, and indeed making his way through the left-hander here at Bishop, and now onto the brakes of what will be turn at number 15 as he comes into the right-hander down to 3rd gear, but no, it's battling there with some braking oversteer as he makes way through the left and into the right-hander on at turn number 16, a corner that's very tricky in the what is the daylight to see, but at night time even more difficult to see, and a bit of trivia about that very shortly, but as he makes his way out of the Mont corner, not quite perfect there, and Shirley back it off, not happy with the run of that lap. We're going to stay on board him all the way to the end as he lets Jamie Dory on through as he heads up towards the timeline where it's going to be into the final corner Sunset first and braking there after the 50-metre board all the way down to 2nd gear at the apex and now into the toe of the Audi RS3 driver, and that is a lap of Sebring International Raceway as brought to you by Martin Shirley as he does come to the timing line. As he makes his way on through, a little bit of trivia for you in the back. You may have noticed we made our way back onto the airfield section coming through turns 14 through to 16, just how difficult it was to see the racing line markers, the white lines if you will, and it's not been uncommon over the course of the history of racing this circuit, particularly in its early days where drivers would get lost and in fact have to retire from the race because they would end up driving so far over the racing circuit they wouldn't be able to find their way back onto the circuit. In more modern times, most drivers now find their way around it absolutely fine. I mean, indeed, this has been the circuit of a number of drivers getting lost in the races and indeed having to retire just simply because they've had to park it up somewhere else in the airfield and go, where on earth is the racetrack, and they've just not been able to find it, particularly in endurance racing over night time. But coming from losing the circuit to losing time right now, we look at some drivers who are not quite on the pace, and well, Mikey Doble with a 2nd place success, but as currently sits P19, and well, to be fair, it's got to be expected when the weight goes in the car. I think Doble hoping he can go a little bit higher as Lee Horn demotes him now down to P20, with Lee Horn taking P11 or 215.698. We're almost there to 14, so it puts at 215.030, so therefore we're not too far off. And as we do see, Doble making his way on through and into the braking zone very shortly for what is Cunningham corner, where he's going to be starting from P20. He's got all the work cut out for him as he makes his way on around. We do welcome back to the grid for tonight Mark Kent, who says hello in the YouTube chat, and hello to you, Mark. How are you doing? Well, and it's good to see you back on the grid, albeit not out in the qualifying session at the moment, so I get the thing you might be starting from towards the back, although we do hope to see you out there and having a bit of fun later on, Mark. But it's very good to see yourself and the full Tilt the Motorsport crew here today. And we also say hello to Mr. PF John there in the YouTube chat, who is cheering on Dan Mould, despite the fact that Dan's not feeling 100%, and indeed I do believe Dan right now are really feeling unwell Indeed, he posted a photo a little bit earlier on, I do believe, on the official NXTCC or the Next Gen Racing Discord of him having to take quite a bit of lem sip there, and I think Cole's catching a number of drivers out, and well for Mould, he's currently P6, so whatever he's taking in order to hold off that cold, it's definitely working. And right now the SRL Next Gen driver pushing on here, he's only what is 300ths of a Smith's time, and well, speaking of surprises, Sam Smith right now currently your provisional pole sitter in the prime IMB Racewear class, P5 as well overall. That is phenomenal for the iRacing Esports driver, and well, if he carries this on, Ben Altria P10 meanwhile, and then it is Alan McCain P13 and Paul Scott and Daniel Downing. This could be a surprise and a huge opportunity for Smith to take one of his first ever prime wins of his NXTCC career. He aborts lap, he goes very deep there into the final corner. Now you've got to keep in mind he's going to have to rejoin. He will be allowed to rejoin, he'll be able to go into one more lap, so perhaps setting himself up for a last run here as he makes his way out of that final corner onto a lap where he's going to attack it from a distance. He charges his way onto line, perhaps to provide himself a bit more security, but meanwhile we've seen our first 14 this qualifying session, and it's been set by the man who's been pushing for it all session. It's Luciano Vitford there with a 14.89 to the nearest 100th, a phenomenal lap. It's almost 4 tenths faster than Daniel Martin. I suspect he may have nailed the lap in his own terms and also picked up the tow, but as he sits to the pit lane, meanwhile Alex Meredith making his way on around here, currently down in P18. Has improved to P18 on the previous lap with a personal best of 2:15.81, but he'll be hoping he can find a bit more time. An inch ahead of Daniel Downing, Paul Scott and Alan McCain to give himself an opportunity to be on that prime podium as a minimum. But Chenga flag comes out in this qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen, and that does mean our drivers cross the line. That'll be their final laps on the board. So it really now is do or die in terms of qualifying times. And as we do look from what is Alex Meredith to Ian Manners, Manners into the pit lane, the same there. What I do believe is his JW Motorsport teammate. I'm not sure if that's re-swapped behind. And well, as they come on down the pit lane, both drivers there deciding to abort the rest of their qualifying session and park on up. Meanwhile, Alex Meredith is just making his way on past our camera there at turn at number 9. As he does so, the Crystal Autosport driver currently P38 off racing line. So I think he's deciding to back off here and not go in. And well, with that, we've now got a bit of a breather before we get our next drivers to come on around to complete the qualifying session. And well, that does include what we Daniel Martin, as he's in the long snake train, the slipstream train of cars, as his teammate steps aside there. So Martin's been given the tow by Martin Shirley, and as they make the way in to Sunset Bend, braking as late as possible to get this late apex nailed. He does exactly that. It's a beautiful run from Daniel Martin, but what's it going to be at the timeline? He's gone the best of everybody in subsector 1. That's the best in subsectors 2 and 3. The rest of that has not been an improvement, but Martin does improve to a 2:15.127. It's 2.5 tenths of a Vitford's pole time, but is it enough to keep him on the front row of the grid? Well, Jamie Dory comes on slowly down the back straight. He's not going to improve any further. Daniel Downing jumps up to P12 on a 2:15.676. That's P2 in prime now. Meanwhile, Alan McCain comes out the final corner. iRacing Esports to find everything at this at the last gasp, and as he makes his way right on through, Joseph Doble moves up to P9, Sanatachi up to P10 on 2:15s apiece. What about McCain as he comes on across the line? He's currently P60. He jumps up to P3. Alan McCain takes prime pole position and a spot on the second row of the grid with 2:15.151 to 2:12. What a lap from Alan McCain. I mean, Vitford's pole lap is absolutely sensational, it has to be said. But McCain in his own right for prime pole, well, he's absolutely nailed that. And that is a surprise and a welcome one to be sure for iRacing Esports, as we see here Lee Horn trying to get the car back into the pit lane before he's on that racing line any further. But everyone's making their way into the pits here. I think qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen. We may have 1 or 2 drivers who are out there at the moment on cooldown laps, but I don't think anybody is on a valid flying lap anymore, and that is qualifying complete. It is Luciano Vitford who takes pole position overall on a 2:14.886, the only 2:14 we've seen in this qualifying session. Daniel Martin will join him on the front row. Now on row number 2 is taking P3 is your prime pole sitter, and it will be Alan McCain taking his first prime pole position of the season. And will Sam Smith at P6, the iRacing Esports pair definitely delivering the only primes inside the top 10, and Daniel Downing will be your third prime starting P14 on the 7th row of the grid there, and being joined just by him by Ben Altrier, with Paul Scott and Alex Meredith also inside the top 20, P17, P18. As Anatachi calls the car down here, and indeed just behind him we do see there the car of what is Luke Jones, and that confirms it was Reece Watt who was coming into the pit behind Ian Manners earlier on. As they make the way on for the left-hander here, well, right now the 2 drivers just simply cooling down, but getting a little bit more practice before all set and ready to go. And well, I see a mention there for Average Sharpie in the YouTube chat, cheering on Andrew Pike, of course, for iRacing Esports this season, with the Sim Racing Collective not being in the grid, and therefore Pike being racing for iRacing Esports. in what is a partial season for him, and you can never count Andrew Pike out. But right now, what you can't count out, as you try and say that multiple times, is the fact it's going to be an exciting race ahead as we head to the grid for our first race of the day. And as they line up for race number 1 of round 8 of the NXTCC Season 5, powered by IMB Racewear, it is Luciano Vitford who takes pole position for Brabham Esports, joined on the front row by RD Simsports' Daniel Martin. Alan McCain, your prime pole sitter, starts P3 for iRacing Esports, joined on the second row by Semper Racing's Jaslav Sabula. We then have the combination of Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink and Sam Smith for iRacing Esports on row at number 3, with row 4 going to Martin Shirley for RD Simsport and Full Tilt v Motorsports' William Guthrie. Dan Mould for SRL NXTGEN and Double Sim Racing's Joseph Doble complete what is your top 10, with Paul Zanatachi for Affinity starting P11 and joined on the 6th row by Andrew Pyatt for iRacing Esports. On row number 7, it's Benjamin McCluskey for NXTGEN Pink and Goldwing Motorsports' Daniel Downing, with Ben Altria behind starting P15 for Full Tilt v Motorsport, just ahead of NXTGEN with Sam Casey's Lee Horn. Paul Scott starts P17 for NXTGEN with Sam Casey's behind his teammate and is joined on the 9th row of the grid by Alex Meredith for RD Simsport, and then we have completing the top 20 at what is Reese Watt for JW Motorsport and Gavin Garner for NXTGEN Pink. Adam Delmont starts P21 for SRL NXTGEN in a difficult qualifying session, it would seem, and he's joined there by Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, our second place championship driver, also finding it difficult in this qualifying session. Jane Calais, the privateer, starts P23 ahead of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, and then we have on row at number 13 Ian Maz for JW Motorsport and Semper Racing's Piotr Jegosleski. Matthew Addy starts P27 for NXTGEN with Sam Cases, joined there by Sam Vanols for Goldwing Motorsport P28, and then we have behind them the pair of Wayne Douglas for NXTGEN Pink and Luke Jones for JW Motorsport completing your top 30. Duncan Rice for Goldwing Motorsport and NXTGEN with Sam Cases, Mark Sykes lined up on the 16th row, on the 17th row going to Matthew Sheraton for Aztec Racing, Jonathan Collins for Whiskey Runners Racing. James Spencer starts behind his teammate P35 ahead of Craig Tiddleston for FR20 Sim Racing. It's then Harley Picknell and Alex Everett on row number 19, and Mark Kent and Vilmos Bow will be starting on your last but not least row of the grid, row number 20 there. But as the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen, we look back to the front of the grid. Our drivers are all lined up, the lights are going on, and it is going to be a standing start, which is 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for our first race of the day here at Sebring. And as Luciano Vitford gets a good start off the line, Daniel Martin trying to respond in the Honda on the left of your picture. Martin will get a nose ahead as they make their way down towards the braking zone. Look at Jamie Dory on the right as well, soaring on through to move into P3. Vitford defends well, but as they make their way into the opening corner, Dory has gained multiple places off the launch, and as they come on through turn 1 up towards 3 they go. All drives safely through the opening corner so far. Now into turn 3, this is where things are going to Constantina harshly as they come down to the anchors a bit further behind. We can see William Guthrie there on the outside of Tilt v Motorsport taking the safe line but losing places to Joseph Doble and Paul Zanatachi as a result. But I think safety being the bigger concern for him, and as they make their way out of turn number 5 on towards 6, one drives raw the way through, and Sam Smith is up to P5. He's behind teammate Alan McCain, the two leading prime drivers, but he's got Jaslav Sabula trying to get in the fight. As you can see, they're switching from left into right. Comes Dan Mould hard on the brakes. Mould trying to go around the outside here. Sabula under attacking manoeuvre into the hairpin, and as the SL NXTGEN driver now brings it on through, it's a good move from Dan Mould. This is going to work by looks of things, albeit he's got the run towards Fangio, but he'll come from right into left now. They keep money on the outside for Cunningham, and that's where Sabula can really stick his foot in under braking and try to force the door back open. And as they come down to the braking zone, Sabula's going to do exactly that, stays on the inside, but Mould outbrakes his rival. Meanwhile, Zanatachi comes in roaring hot side by side with Joseph Doble, but in the end can't quite make it work, so they switch back to the left hand of Collier, and up towards Tower Corner they go. But as they do, meanwhile further back, Isaac Doble fighting right now with Paul Scott as the two go side by side in towards Tower. Doble gets through on the inside there at turn number 12 on the attack. Meanwhile, just in front, Alex Meredith as well, fighting here with Reese Watt, looking for overall positions to chase after Ben Altria. Altria flashing his lights then the foreground of the camera shot. Meredith meanwhile's not got time to flash his lights. He's got to focus on battling with Reese Watt, who pulls back ahead. The Audi proving too strong on the straight, and as they make the way through 14 in towards 15, coming down onto the brakes once again. Mikey Doble as well, 2 places gained since the start, up towards P20 already, but behind them Duncan Rise a little bit further back, battling with Alex Everett here for P30, and what is P13 in the prime class. Unlucky for some, but for one of these drives it could be a lucky number today, as behind Sheraton and Douglas are fighting it. Douglas looking around the outside, but Matthew Sheraton putting up a defensive wall as they come down the Allman Straight. But as they charge their way into the final corner, meanwhile we look to the front of the field, and this is Luciano Vitford after 1 lap of racing. We do get a refresh of overlay, ladies and gentlemen, so that way we can see the circuit map. But after 1 lap, the field in terms of the top 10 is as follows. It's Vitford ahead of Martin, followed by Doria, then it's your prime leader of McCain, ahead of Smith, followed by Sabula, then Shirley, who's just battling side by side up with Mould, and as they make their way in towards turn number 1 here, it's going to be Mould on the right, your picture, Shirley on the left, onto the anchors they go, and well, Shirley right now, he's got the better brakes in the Honda, but Mould's got the better positioning, and that's going to give Mould everything he needs to force the door back open and make sure he holds the position. But as they come down to the braking zone, Sebring looking on the inside of Smith, he doesn't want to wait anymore, and as they come through the left into right here, Smith defending still, and Sebring can get alongside, but he can't find a way to completely complete the move as they make the way out of 5 in towards 6. As they roll the way through Big Ben, behind them and behind Mould, we do have Doble, Joseph Doble that is, in P8, Martin Shirley P9, and pulls down Tachi, completing your top 10, William Guthrie, best of the rest, P11, as they come down in towards the hairpin for the second time of asking, onto the brakes they go. Shirley right now still fighting with Joseph Doble, and Doble here looking for that run away as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the Doble Sim Racing Veloster in the number 11, and as you can see here, Shirley staying very close as they make the way in towards Cunningham Corner. The Honda driver knowing where he can leverage the strengths of the Hondas, but also being wary of the fact he hasn't got the straight line acceleration compared to the Veloster, and that just holds him back on these more power focused zones as he comes out to turn number 10 and onwards towards turn number 13 they roar. But as they come through the left into right of 11 and 12 here, you can see now Shirley just backing off slightly, not quite able to be able to look for the move as they come on through at Tower Corner. But as they roll over the right hander, and now down they go once again, heading up towards 14 and 15. Will Shirley with the weight in the car as well, that's not going to help him whatsoever as they head in towards the latter half of this lap. But meanwhile from them further back, Gavin Garner, difficult qualifying session started P20. He's made some places early on and right now looking to make some more for next gen P. Remember he's running 4.7 kilograms of success bars, the lowest amount of success bars of any of our overall World Championship drivers, but right now this Audi not looking too strong at the circuit for Gardner. Meanwhile Jamie Dory by comparison at the front of the field making the Audi work, but Gardner head down normally a lot faster in the race compared to qualifying, and he's going to pride himself on that as he makes his way on down the Ormond Straight. As they head up towards Sunset Bend, long line of stern here from all of our drivers. Meanwhile, a little bit of a snake train starting to form behind Isaac Doble. That's Paul Scott trying to come back for P6 in the Prime class. P22 overall. Doble goes defence from the inside. Scott's going to look for the cut back here. Doble sees it coming past the car in Apex, and as they make the way through, it's going to build up a long line of cars here as we ride on board with Jay Calais, the privateer in the 89. It tucks in behind Isaac Doble and Paul Scott, and he's got a popcorn seat view of the fight between the two of them. Albeit he'll want to get involved here and try to make it a freeway fight. It's going to be Scott looking around the outside here versus the Prime Championship leader, but Doble defending as they make the way through. Calais sees the doors open at the start of the apex. He can't quite get involved, however, and Scott returns to his position. Isaac Doble still has to go defensive in. This is important for the championship as they make the way in towards turn number 3. Side by side they go, and Isaac Doble right now absolutely digging in. I think he's put it out of his mind. He'll be chasing Alex Meredith, who's 3 places up the road, and instead right now he's just trying to stem the tide of drivers as they make the way up towards the hairpin. Keep in mind, of course, if Isaac Doble finishes where he is currently P6 in class, he won't take any success bars into the next race of the day, and he'll have a much lighter and faster car in theory, albeit be starting from quite far back, where a lot of rivals will be very eager to try and claim his scalp in race number 2 of the day. But as they come onto the brakes there, Paul Scott getting very close, very tight indeed under attacking power. But from there we look back up towards the top 6, and indeed just as Spieler at the bottom end of the top 6, Mould up the inside as they come in towards Cunningham, and this time bit elbows out there from Mould, but still all's fair in NXTCC racing. You're always going to expect some contact in touring car, and as they make the way on through the left into right, well here they come in towards the braking zone for Tower, and that's going to be Joseph Doble now, who sees that Sebula's all out of rhythm, and with that he now makes his way through to the tune of his racing as they head in towards Bishops once again. As they make the way on towards turn number 14, long line of cars goes on through and up towards the next right-hander. Well, Sebula here looking to come back versus Doble, but it's much easier said than done as they head into the braking zone. Meanwhile, further behind from them, we look a long way towards the back of the field, in particular to Sam Van Olsen. He comes down in towards Bishop's Corner, in fact through Bishop's now to 15. As he does so, the Goldwing Motorsport driver here out of position in qualifying, 3 places gained overall, 2 in class as well, in P9 in Prime, and looking to take Calais and Scott as they come out of the right-hander of Le Mans. As they make the way on down the back straight here, well, everyone's so close together right now, and indeed it's all going to be about for these guys just trying to find a move late on the day, but I don't think he's going to be able to find one as they all come on through. You can see that Paul Scott having to go a bit more defensive versus Calais, with Van Olsen trying to get into the mix, as we do have the 2 Audis sandwiching what is the Veloster. We can see Calais goes a little bit deep, and Olsen's going to have the door open here, but it's a tight line, and Calais going to time it to get the throttle down and carry more momentum off the corner, but Piotr Jigaslewski just behind, also trying to get into the fight as they make make the way on towards turn number 1, but as they do so, no change between them. Meanwhile, on the rear of the picture, we have Matthew Sheraton and Jonathan Collins fighting position. This is a P31, P14 in the Prime class. Collins on the inside, Sheraton on the outside, and well, it looks like Collins here will seal the deal on P14 as he comes on for a left-hander, and Wayne Douglas right now waiting in the wings, but here comes Sheraton looking for the cutback run out of the opening corner onto the inside of Frey, and Collins turns in, gives the space to Sheraton. Great racing between these two. It may only be for a point or two, but it means a lot to them in the Prime class, and in the end Collins will hold the position for now as they come through the tight and twisty section of 4 and 5. But from then we look all the way back up the field to Sam Smith, who continues to fight for a top 5 finish here. He doesn't have to, arguably, even though the Prime drivers do gain overall championship points. Their big focus is on their class championship, but Smith right now absolutely trying to be the thorn in the side of the pros around him, including Mould and also Joseph Doble. It's Mould on the right of your picture, Joseph Doble in the middle, who backs out as they make the way into the braking zone here for what is Cunningham corner. Smith on the inside here, but Mould's going to squeeze into the apex 9. He can throw the weight of the car around, and Dan Mould makes his way on through, showing his experience there as they come on through the left-hander Collier up towards Tower Corner they go, and Smith right now out of position, much like Sabula was only a lap ago through here. And look at the time and how quickly Smith is losing momentum as now Jasper Sabula says, can I play too? And well, I think Sabula's going to be given the opportunity as he looks up the inside in towards turn at number 13, well, in fact 14 now, coming through Bishops, and into 15 they go, the right-hander, and it is going to be Sabula around the outside there, and Smith just not able to defend anymore after losing 1 place. He's lost 3 in fact over the space of 5 corners. Well, he's not going to be too upset by that, given the fact he hasn't lost class position, but he has lost the right to try and challenge for what is a top 5 finish overall. But as they make the way on down, we can see they're pulling off a race line, going for a slowdown. That's an automated slowdown for track limits, I believe, at turn number 15. William Guthrie for Full Tilt Mersborough, who's going to be absolutely punished here as he loses the best part of his 8th place in this. He's going to lose even more now, and side by side coming on past him, that is Ben Ultria versus Gavin Gardner. Gardner on the inside, it going all in the Full Tilt Mersborough driver Ultria on the outside in the Hyundai Elantra, and he's not going to have really a run as they come out to the corner. Is he? Well, right now I think he's going to prove otherwise, so they make the way on towards what we turn number 1. Ultria is still there, and importantly for Ultria, if he can get past Gardner and then after Lee Horn in front of him, that's Daniel Downing fighting with Horn in the goal. We merged was a Elantra that's just gone through your camera shot, and as they make the way through turn number 1, Ultria right now eager to make sure that the pro driver doesn't get in his way, but Gardner in turn wanting to take on Lee Horn, so right now both drivers are fighting for their own aspirations, but whose aspirations are going to come out on top? Well, it's going to be Gardner's. As you can see out the inside goes Guthrie, the Full Tilt Mersborough driver getting involved with his teammate here and having to back out in the end to make sure the two of them don't lose time and fall backwards towards Reese and Alex Meredith, who encroaching very quickly. But as they come through, meanwhile further behind Sam Van Olst, they're going side by side for turn number 5 with what is Paul Scott. It's the battle of the 2 Audi drivers. Van Olst getting his elbows out there, saying to Scott, if you want it, you're going around the outside of Big Bend in towards the hairpin, and well, it's still the Scott who wants it as they head down towards the braking zone. In they go very shortly onto the anchors, and as they do, well, right now Van Olst still there on the inside. Meanwhile Scott squeezing as much as he possibly can, and in the end they are still side by side as they come out the hairpin. They're fighting for his P8 in the Prime class. You think they were fighting for the win with how closely they're fighting, but still as they charge after one another and up towards what is turn number 10. Neither driver wants to back out here, as meanwhile Isaac Doble under pressure from Jay Calais, but as we look back, Van Olst there on the inside holding firmly, and in the end Paul Scott does have to back out, but it goes to show you just how long you can run laps side by side through if you show the respect to one another. And Isaac Doble still being confounded by Jay Calais, just can't find a way to break away. But then again, with the fact he's got 32.5 kilograms of success, but whereas his rivals behind have got no weight in the car whatsoever. Isaac Doble right now putting on a stoic defense, but you can see there Calais getting the better run, coming up through Bishop's going to be on the inside of 15. This might be where the defence starts to fall, but as they break their way into the corner, Doble goes very late. Calais in the end has to match on the braking, bounces over the curb, 3 wide into Le Mans they go. Doble on the outside, Van Olst meanwhile takes 1, he takes 2, and through goes Sam Van Olst for goal. We must win a brilliant piece of opportunistic driving as they make their way down the Ullman straight, and the Audi driver has got the straight line speed to charge away, and if that's not a candidate for overtaking the season, I don't know what is, ladies and gentlemen. That's some smart driving from the number 92 driver. He makes his way up towards Sunset Bend, and behind that Isaac Doble out of Swords, he's out of River, and that's going to release Paul Scott and Piotr Jigoslavsky as well. Jigoslavsky on the inside now as they make the way out of Sunset Bend, and you can understand from Isaac Doble's perspective, he threw everything to hold on, but in the end a fight with one driver turned into a battle of 3, and after that all has fallen away from him as they make the way in towards turn number 1. But it's ready as the damage limitation race for the championship leader in the prime class. And after this one, he'll have no weight in the car based on the way the finishing positions are going. And that will mean he'll be back on the attack once again. But as they make the way in towards turn number 3, James Selesky on the outside. Doble fighting hard for it, going as late on the brakes as possible. Those rear discs absolutely glowing red hot, and knowing that he can outbrake some of his rivals here using the techniques that he's mastered over the course of this season to his advantage. But meanwhile, we've been looking further down the order for quite some time. Let's look back up the order. And this is the ongoing fight between Lee Horn and what is here Daniel Downing, down on the outside into the hairpin, Horn on the inside, and as they make the way up towards what is turn number 10 now. Horn holding off Downing for now with Gavin Gardner, Ben Aldria, Reese Watt, William Guthrie, Alex Meadow and Mikey Doble, all in the back of this long train of what is effectively 8 cars. But from them up to the very front of the field, we'll very shortly look, albeit we can't at the moment, or can we? We are going to get a camera feed from the front of the field, I'm pleased to say, and this is Luciano Bitford, who right now leads, albeit only by half a second, over Daniel Martin. These two beginning on a high in terms of qualifying, and right now in this race, when they're 2/3 of the way into the race after this lap, and right now nobody else is able to stay with them, and Jamie Dory 1.4 seconds behind is just breaking away very gradually for Alan McCain. But you can see how this top two are really making that win, the battle for the win, we should say, a fight of their own as they make the way onto the Allman Straight for the 6th time of asking. But as they do, Martin right now will know he's just got to keep the pressure on versus Bitford and see if a mistake will come when these two are so equal, and their pace is absolutely inseparable. Last lap, the fastest lap race set by Bitford at 2:14.94. Meanwhile for Daniel Martin, a 2:14.96, a personal best. And as they come on through this time, as we see Plough to the wall there, coming on through Sunset Bend, albeit off circuit, so it's not going to have an effect on the leaders there. But a bit of a heart and mouth moment for both driver and also the championship leaders, and they make the way onto the start finish straight this time, where it's a new fastest lap from Bitford, a 2:14.825. Meanwhile Martin a 2:15.08028. So 2 attempts being gained there by Bitford, but then again it ebbs and flows between these guys as they make their way through. Meanwhile, looking further back, we've got 3 wide into turn 1, swinging to the inside, goes what is there? Oh, JW Motorsport car of Reese Watt. Meanwhile in the middle is Daniel Downing, on the outside is William Guthrie. They make the way still up towards turn number 3. Surely not, it's going to be 3 wide into the opening hairpin, and they go. Watts on the inside, he takes 1, he takes 2, and as they come on through, it's going to be behind them Alex Meredith, who looks up the inside, he can't quite find it yet, but what makes a 2-for-1 special, much like Sam and Olst earlier on. And meanwhile now Meredith battling with William Guthrie as they come on through the big bend. Behind them still is Mikey Doble, who wants to get in on the action, and as they make the way down towards the hairpin here, you can see Downing flashing his lights at Watt as if to distract him. But as they come onto the anchors here, absolutely brilliant race in between them as they make the way out of the hairpin. Well, right now Daniel Downing's got more to look behind rather than in front. In the fact he's going to have to try and hold at bay will be Guthrie, who is very eager to chase after Reese Watt. And well, what does Downing do here, given the fact that behind is Guthrie is Mikey Doble and then Alex Meredith, a very pumped up Alex Meredith it must be said, as they head in towards turn number 10. Well, from then we look back to Adam Delmont still fighting side by side with Sam Van Olst despite the damage on the front end of the SRL NXTGEN Honda, and as he comes out to the right into left, that's Van Olst taking another place overall, and the next drive to come on to Delmont is another prime in the form of Jay Calais. And right now Delmont just trying to stop and plug the loss of places whilst there's time remaining, albeit we've still got 2 more laps after this one. I wonder how far down the order Delmont may potentially fall in preparation for race number 2, given the damage limitation now on the car, and it's clearly a Honda is not in a happy place with the crumpled front bumper, and indeed that bonnet as well not looking straight. But as they make the way in towards turn number 15, well, meanwhile we look from them back up to what is the mid portion of the top 10. And this is Joseph Doble, P6 currently making his way down the Allman Straight with Joseph Spieler just behind, and then pulls Zanatachi, as Zanatachi right now on course for a P8 finish, and indeed looking up for what will be one of the strongest performances of the season. But meanwhile Dan Mole going very, very deep there at Sunset Bend, almost missing the corner, albeit brings it back together. And I think that might have brought along some hope for Joseph Doble, that he might be able to put a move on the SRL NXTGEN driver as they make the way up towards turn number 1. As we ride on board here, looking back from the rear of the Britain in the number 80, we're heading in towards the opening corner, penultimate lap in this race. Well, through the left they go and up towards turn number 3, and you can see right now Mole just trying to bring it back together. 3 tenths is the gap, and Doble will be trying to bring that gap down even more as they make the way onto the first half of this lap. This is where it's the most technical part of the lap. The latter half being more power focused, but as they make their way out to turn at number 5, we can see there Mole with the better run of the corner, opens that gap up to 4 tenths before it starts to come down the toe for Doble on the run through Big Bend. But the length of the run is not long enough to give Doble an opportunity to go on the attack. So therefore into the hairpin they'll go, and I think they may likely stay where they are for the time being as they head on to the brakes once more. But as they come on through, meanwhile we have had an incident for Paul Scott further down the order. It seems to drop a long way down, and here's a quick replay. So as we look from that turn 1 all the way towards turn number 3 here, this was only moments ago. Scott there being tapped on the rear by Vernol's, who came in very hot. Oh my good lord, and Jay Calais there just being missed by the wayward car next to him with Sam Casey's driver, and in a nasty moment. And well, I think there might be a word to the stewards group after the race there, but still it's happened, and the driver's been able to get mostly away with it. But for Paul Scott, his race now will be in tears as a result, as I do believe he's had to tow to the pits as a result of that. But as we look back to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and indeed our leaders right now in your camera shot as they make the way in towards turn number 15, where it's still 4.5 tenths from Luciano Vitford, who is your leader, ahead of Daniel Martin, and well, the number 60 driver from Brabham Esports just keeping his head down lap after lap. And now Daniel Martin really has the question placed upon him, which is how do you close down a driver who is proving to be quick enough to set the fastest lap of the race time and time again, but also to maintain the gap? Well, we've had a bit of an answer from Daniel Martin on the previous lap. He did gain 2 tenths on Vitford, albeit of course it can swing back and forth. In fact, it was 3 tenths now. We double check the maths, and as they make the way through Sunset Bend onto the final lap, well, Vitford right now will know that pressure is on as we ride on board with Daniel Martin as he powers his way onto lap 9 of 9, and the sun's hidden behind the clouds. A bit of a change of track temperature here. Will it affect the drivers? Probably not too much, but as they make the way in towards the opening corner, white flag waves, and Daniel Martin right now in a Honda that protects its tyres better than most will be looking to try and hound down the leader to make one last attempt at the race win. Albeit as they come through turn 1 in towards 3, no potential prospect. As you can see, Martin absolutely mounting the curve of turn 3, trying to use that to give him as much rotation in the car as possible by lifting the car off its left-hand side and get those right and rear wheels in order to push the car on through. But in the end, the gap opened up more of a bit, but they're now to 5 tenths as they make the way up towards the hairpin. Into the braking zone they go, and it looks so it's only going one way, and that is the way of the status quo. But meanwhile, further behind, we do have a battle of P7 at grind, as this is currently Paul Zenatachi getting closer and closer to Sebula in the rear of the picture, now starting to come into the foreground as they head onto the brakes into the hairpin. Zenatachi looks at the move. It's a very late move. There's some contact there between himself and Sebula, a tap to the rear in the end, or a bit more of a shunt, but in the end they get away with it as they make the way up towards turn number 10. Well, Zenatachi throwing the gloves off now and saying, right, I'm going for this all in. And the Affinity driver, you can understand why, given the fact he's been perhaps one of the unluckiest drivers in the Pro Class all season. Whenever he's been inside the top 10 looking for a great result, it's always crept away from him, albeit today it's not going to. This is looking to be a top 10 in race number 1, and as he makes his way, weaving and winding his way up towards Tower Corner right now, he's looking for one more place, but as he does so, looking a bit further back to Ben Aldria, who continues to chase after Daniel Daniel with Alex Meredith right there. They're fighting for P3 in the Prime Class. Is this trio running in the battle for P17 overall as well, and Aldria right now looking for a way in versus the driver who is second place in what is the Prime Championship as they make the way in towards turn number 14. Through Bishop they go, and as they do so, will no way through it at the moment for Aldria, it would seem, as Alex Meredith just watches on from behind. But as they come on through at the right into left for Le Mans, well, we look from them back to your leaders, ladies and gentlemen, because these guys right now are heading into the final corner, and well, he put it on pole with the only 2:14 in the qualifying session, and what's 2.5 tenths of pole position in the end will be 6 tenths to the checker flag, because Luciano Vitford from Brabham Esports is going to be your first ever NXTCC winner at Sebring International Raceway. He takes the win in race number 1 ahead of Daniel Martin. Jamie Dory finishes P3, and then Alan McCain will come through to take your prime win for iRacing Esports P4 overall in a season best performance ahead of Dan Mould, Jones Adol P6 there, Jasper Spieler, Paul Zanatachi P8, Andrew Pipe P9, Martin Shirley P10, Benjamin McCuskey P11, Lee Horn then followed up by Sam Smith P13. But for the iRacing Esports driver, it's a 1-2 in the Prime Class for iRacing Esports, with Smith bringing on home. Reese Watt, William Guthrie and Mikey Doble complete your top 16, and Daniel Downing in the end held on to third place in the Prime Class ahead of Ben Aldria and Alex Meredith. A great result for the Goldwing Motorsport driver. Sam Vernol's P20 and P6 in the class ahead of Jay Calais, and then as we can see more drivers starting to make their way to the checker flag. There's only 1 or 2 coming on through, ladies and gentlemen. Craig Tillison's just crossed line for FR20 Sim Racing. And Harley Bicknell for JW Motorsport will shortly cross line there. P32 for what is the overall positions. P16 in prime, missing out on some points in the end just by one place. But then it will be shortly after him, Wayne Douglas, who comes to the line for Next Gen Pink in a challenging race for the Britain in the 66. But the number 66 driver will take P33 in the end. And then it will be on his return to the grid, coming on through there for Full Tilt V Motorsport in the Audi RS3. Great seeing back on circuit. Mark Kent in the 387 for the Full Tilt V Motorsport outfit. And well, we do have a bit of time before our next race finishes, ladies and gentlemen, which are Mark Sykes and James Pascal. They're both on the lead lap. They're currently coming through Le Mans corner, but as they do so, we do look to your race winner. And what a drive from Luciano Vitford in the number 60 in the end. Pressured all the way through by Daniel Martin, but in the end able to maintain the gap. And whatever Daniel Martin threw at him, Luciano Vitford was able to respond and not feel the intense pressure. And Alan McCain behind, taking the prime win. That's an achievement in itself, but also a P4 after that stellar pole lap. You couldn't ask for better from the iRacing Esports driver. But meanwhile, as they make the way down the cool-down lap, we look to our last drivers to finish the race on the lead lap. Mark Sykes for Next Gen with Sam Cases, P35, and James Smazgowski with your last lead lap finisher, P36, for the Aztec Racing driver in the 660 Audi RS3. As he comes across line, we also looked at some other drives with some great performances, including what was a stand-up performance for the Affinity driver of Paul Zenatachi, for what was in the number 14 at Veloster, in the fact it may have only been P8 in the end, but fighting hard all the way through. And could this be a sign of more to come from him as the day goes on? Well, we would hope to see so, given the fact he's been pushing after top 10s all season and picking up another there in the overall category. But as they all pour the way into the pits, ladies and gentlemen, everyone eager to get out of the cars, get a breather in before we do go racing again. It's completely understandable as they all come on down at pit row. And we can see there Luke Jones just behind Matthew Addy, two drivers who definitely had to fight hard to be inside the top 10 of the prime class in the end. P9 for Luke Jones, Matthew Addy P8, or what was P24, P23 overall. Well, as they come in and cool down, let's take a look for those race results, subject to any shoulds inquiries, and here they are. So as we can see, after a fantastic first racer day in round 8 of the NXTCC Season 5, brought to you on iRacing, powered by IMB Racewear, Luciano Vitford for Brabham Esports, taking the win by 6/10 in the end over RD Simsports' Daniel Martin. Jamie Doyle completing your top 3 there for Next Gen Pink in a bit of a lonely P3 in the end, but still he won't complain too much about that, with Alan McCain then a further what was 3.5 seconds behind, and the iRacing Esports driver taking P4 overall, and just as importantly the win in the prime class in what was a dominant drive to victory. Dan Mould at P5 for SRL Next Gen, completing the top 5, and despite not feeling 100%, putting on a great performance there and fighting off the cold with Joseph Doble P6 for Double Sim Racing ahead of Jazz Sabzabula, with the Semper Racing driver losing out in the early stage of the race but fighting back to P7 ahead of Affinity's Paul Zenatachi, and then Andrew Pike and Martin Shirley completing your top 10 for iRacing Esports and RD Simsport respectively. P11 for Benjamin McCluskey, the Next Gen at Pink driver, not really able to get involved in what's the battle for the top 10, and I'll be looking ahead to the next race of the day with Lee Horn completing your top 12 in the eligible reverse grid positions for Next Gen with Sam Cases. Sam Smith P13, runner-up in the prime class there for iRacing Esports after what was looking to be was a P4 P5 combination, but in the end a confirmed 1-2 for the team in the class ahead of Reese Watt and William Guthrie. Mikey Doble P16 for Double Sim Racing, gaining 6 places at the start and definitely feeling happy with that going into race number 2, and then Daniel Downing P17 for Goldwing Motorsport completing your prime podium of McCain, Smith and Downing ahead of Ben Altrier, and then wrapping up the top 20 with a prime pair of Alex Meredith and Sam Van Olst. Jay Clay, P21, the privateer, ahead of Adam Delmont, with Matthew Addy fighting for a P23 for Next Gen with Sam Cases, ahead of Luke Jones and then Isaac Doble. And there we can see the Double Sim Racing driver, after losing multiple places, doing well to hold on to P10, the prime class of P25 overall, and now be on the charge through the field in the second race of the day, as will an attempt from Ian Madison, JW Motorsport, and a frustrating race number 1, ahead of Piotr Jegowslewski, Alex Everett finishing P28, and then we see to complete the top 30, Jonathan Collins and Duncan Moraes. Great Dustin P31 for FR20 Sim Racing, a bit of a quiet race for the 34 driver ahead of Harley Bicknell, and then Wayne Douglas ahead of Mark Kent and Mark Sykes, with Sykes completing your top 35. Then our final lead lap finisher, James Pascal P36 for Aztec Racing, and our drivers who finished a lap down in the end after incidents in the race, Paul Scott and Matthew Sheraton ahead of Gavin Gardner, who finished 3 laps down, and Vilmas Blau, who finished 5 laps down. As he did not complete over half the race distance, he will be classified as a non-finisher with the privateer. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first racer day, and what a thriller our first race was, no doubt about it. We've still got 2 more races to come, however, so don't be dismayed. We've got plenty more in store, and with race number 2 coming up shortly, well, of course, the thing we do need to do is none other than our reverse grid draw. Well, as we cut to the commentary booth, good evening to you all, and I hope you've been enjoying the racing so far. It's been absolutely phenomenal at Sebring, it must be said. And of course, we've got our Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl here with the numbers 6 through to 12, and shortly I'm going to close my eyes, put my hand into the bowl, shuffle them around and pull out a ball, and that'll be our reverse grid position for our second race of the day. Without further ado, let's do the shuffle. So those are the balls shuffled, and now we draw our number, and it is going to be what will be the number 11. So for our first reverse grid of the day, it's going to be a sizable one, and it means Benjamin McCluskey. He may not finish inside the top 10 in race number 1, but he starts on pole for race number 2. I get the feeling McCluskey will be more than happy to. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be back in approximately 5 minutes time for the build up to race number 2 and get a word or two from some of our drivers. But just before we cut away, a quick word from our sponsor, IMB Racewear, and of course we'll be back in 5 minutes time. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to race number 2 of 3 here at the Sebring International Raceway in round 8 of the NXTCC Season 5, powered by IMB Racewear. And for our first ever race at Sebring, what a race number 1 was. It had thrills, it had surprises, it had stand-up performances, and even contenders for overtake of the season. And it's great to see so many of you tune in, particularly in the YouTube chat, enjoying the racing, but also there, shout out in the Facebook chat to Neil Crave, who enjoyed the cracking battles, great racing all, and congratulating Jamie Doran holding on to the podium there. We'll also say hello to Spinks 1985, who's been enjoying the racing, and we'll say hello to plenty more of you very shortly. But just before we do that, we're going to be getting a word with 1 or 2 of our drivers as they get set and ready to go once more. And as we see Jamie Doran making his way on through the turn 7 hairpin, and he's got his head down right now. And we're going to try and catch a word with one of the other drivers who definitely put in what was a valiant performance in our first race of the day. And we'll try and catch a word with Wojciech Swirydowicz very shortly as he makes his way on through the corners there of turn 7 and the kinks that follow it. And as we try to get a patch through to the car of Wojciech, give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see if he's got a brief moment for a quick word or 2 with us, albeit from the car. And hopefully this doesn't catch him too much by surprise as he makes his way in to the braking zone there of turn number 10, but as he does so, we try to get a patch through to his car. Jastav, do you have time for a quick word or 2? Absolutely brilliant. Jastav, it looked as though it was a tough race in race number 1, fighting hard in the early stages, falling down to the bottom end of the top 10, but finishing P7 in the end. I mean, you must be proud about fighting back, but also a difficult one all the same.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a disappointment because I had a good quali, and then straight from the start I started to lose the positions, and every time it seems like every time I was trying to gain a position I end up losing the position actually, so it wasn't really best racecraft I believe. And well, also the weight has probably something to do as well with that, but still it wasn't like I want it to be, but yeah, we'll see what will the race 2 bring on.
Well, race 2 is just around the corner. You'll be starting P5 on the grid, albeit with a bit less success ballast in the car now. Are we expected to see you on the podium?
Well, we will see. I wish.
Well, Jastav, we'll leave you to it. Best luck for race 2. Thank you for giving us a quick word or 2.
Thank you too. See you later.
Catch you later. So grabbing a quick word there with Wojciech Swirydowicz, a bit frustrated with race number 1 and saying there with regards to the racecraft in terms of his own racing, and also not being able to fight back for those positions perhaps as much as he'd like due to the success ballast, and indeed in the end having to settle for what was P7 after a great qualifying performance. But still, that's the way it goes sometimes, and looking forward to the second race of the day. And talking briefly there about the fact he didn't want to give a true indicator where he thinks he can make it onto the podium. I don't think he wants to curse himself before he goes racing. I think he's feeling pretty racy, as will Daniel Martin be, albeit he'll be starting much further down the order, starting what will be P10, if my memory does serve me correctly. But as we do wait to go racing, of course, we like to grab a word with our drivers when we can, and those are the words of Wojciech Swirydowicz only moments ago. And we'll try and get some more between race interviews after this race, of course, ladies and gentlemen. We do say hello to John Meredith in the YouTube chat, who says, sorry, a bit late tonight, but tuning in now at the Meredith household over the home cinema system. That's absolutely great to hear. John, I hope you and family are doing well and cheering on Alex, of course. We will say hello to Tom Buxton there in the YouTube chat, who's cheering on Andrew Pike for race number 2. Also there we do say hello to Nigel Stock, or Stock 3090 in the YouTube chat, who says, hello Paul, happy new year. Happy new year to you, Nigel. We've been seeing you on the grid in this series, but happy new year, and I hope you're doing it well. We also say hello to Racer Wes, who says, let's go indeed, let's go Racer Wes, because checker flag is out, and that can only mean one thing. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 2, and as Racer Wes says, let's go racing once again as our drivers make the way to the grid. So as they do, this is how they're going to line up for race number 2. It is Benjamin McCluskey who takes pole position, reverse grid pole for Next Gen Pink, joined on the front row by RD Simsports Martin Shirley. We'll then have on row number 2, Andrew Pine for iRacing Esports and Affinities Paul Zanatachi, with Wojciech Swirydowicz starting P5 for Semper Racing and Joseph Doble P6 for Doble Sim Racing. Then it will be Dan Mould who starts P7 for SRL Next Gen ahead of Pram Polsters, Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, with Daniel Martin starting at P10 behind him, but just before him, Next Gen Pinks, Jamie Dory ahead of the RD Simswitch driver in P9. Luciano Vitford and Lee Horn start on your 6th row of the grid, ahead of Reese White and William Guthrie. We then have on row number 8 Mikey Doble and Daniel Downing, with Ben Autry and Alex Meredith on row number 9, and then the top 20 being completed by Sam Van Alst and Jay Calais. It's then Adam Delmont P21 ahead of Matthew Addy, with Luke Jones and Isaac Doble on row number 12. Row number 13 will go to Ian Mans and Piotr Jegoslewski, ahead of Alex Everett and Jonathan Collins, with Duncan Rakes and Craig Tiddleston on what is row number 15. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, the lights are going on. It's time for 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go for our second race of the day. And as our drivers launch off the line and make their way down towards turn number 1, McCluskey right now defending hard on the inside here, knowing he's got a major opportunity to take victory. Was they charged away into the open left-hander. Martin Shirley as well getting a good start as they head on through. We're going in towards turn number 1 now. It does look like Andrew Pike pulls down a touch. He's still squaring off as they roll up towards turn number 3. A bit Sevilla on the inside here, looking to defend just as much as he attacks. And as he comes through a left-hander, Sevilla on the inside, there touch, he's receiving a tap. And as they survive the contact between them, it upsets both drivers and it puts them a bit further down the order. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory side by side here with Dan Mould, and these two good friends off the circuit but fierce rivals on the circuit. And as they come through here, a little bit of rub between the two of them, no love lost as they come through Big Ben. Dory defending hard on the inside, Mould on the outside. Me on the front of the field, that's Shirley looking to defend versus Pike. Was they all come down and Constantina into the hairpin. Every driver making the way and throwing quick succession here. Dory still there, holding on behind them. Lee Horn and Alan McCain fighting for what is P10 overall. Horn trying to break into the top 10. McCain trying to hold on to the overall top 10 and also maintain his prime lead ahead of what will be Daniel Downing down in P15. But as they make the way in towards the next corner, onto the race they go, and Dory right now still on the inside, still defending. Mould looking around the outside. We've seen him go for this. Dory sliding there, cold tyres catch him out, and Dan Mould makes a move. Oh, goodness me, contact there between what is Dory and Daniel Martin. They settle the differences and bring it back together, but that was very close. 3 wide at turn number 12, and up the inside of 2 drivers goes William Guthrie there as he makes his way on through both Lee Horn and Daniel Martin. That was very close to call, but William Guthrie, oh my goodness, and I was going to say he was very brave to make it count. It's all gone wrong for Guthrie as he's turned to the barrier, and contact there as well for another car being turned around, and that was Nick Clemens being sent sideways, coming out of Tower Corner. He's been able to rejoin, but meanwhile William Guthrie's had to be towed to the pits after that nasty shunt to the barrier. Well, as they all make the way through, we look back further down the field. Jake Calais right now fighting with Ian Mans and Isaac Doble as they make the way on and through the right hand at turn number 16 through the Mont corner. And as they do, well, further down this order, Piotr Jegoslewski on the fighters. Meanwhile, it is pandemonium up the road. That is Luciano Vitford, who's dropped down to what is P18 that start losing 7 places, and right now trying to fend off Daniel Martin. Meanwhile, in front you've got Van Alst, Meredith and Delmont also battling hard as they all come through. Vitford up the inside of Van Alst. Can he make it happen? I don't think so here. But meanwhile, Ben Autry under pressure of Alex Meredith behind, and also fighting with Adam Delmont on his inside as they make the one to lap number 2. Where you look, there are battles aplenty right now as they go on to the second lap of this second race of the day, and nobody right now willing to calm down indeed with the tempo, and indeed the tempos of our drivers are only starting to flare up even more as they make the way through turn number 1. That's Autry on the inside of both Downing and Delmont, and makes a 2-for-1 pass and moves back into what is P2 in the prime class, with Sam Swift not making it to the grid for what was our second race of the day. It means that there was a promotion for all of our Pro-Am drivers, minus what was of course Alan McCain. And right now they're all taking it gladly, albeit it's not the way they want to gain a place, but they're fighting for P2 rather than the race P3. And as they make the way up towards turn number 7, Alex Meredith meanwhile still in position here, fighting with what is Luciano Vitford. As Vitford looking around the outside, onto the brakes they go in towards the hairpin, down they come onto the anchors, and as they do, meanwhile Matthew Addy coming in roaring hot on the inside there, and well, Daniel Martin sitting coming in to throw the steering back open, and Matthew Addy trying to find a way in here, trying to make some progress. He wants to go fighting after Sam Van Alst, Alex Meredith, but right now find himself having to battle with Daniel Martin. And next gen with Sam Casey's driver after a relatively low play in the first race of the day, with only what was a top 10, a bottom in top 10 finish. Right now looking to go for a top 5 as a minimum, if not a podium. And as he battles a P6 in the class with Luke Jones just behind, it's focusing on Van Alst and Meredith in front, albeit Daniel Martin being the one to stop him from chasing those aspirations. As Jones looks up the inside there, can't find into Tower, and instead having to wait his turn as they make the way off the corner. But as they do, Isaac Doble behind, and remember Isaac Doble is the driver now, your championship leader in the Pro-Am class, who wasn't on the pace in race number 1 despite his defence due to the success ballast, but now he's got no weight in the car. He's fully unleashed onto the world, and what can he do here? Currently P8 in class, and keeping to fight his way through. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we have had a safety car call what is at this time, and that will be for the instance further on down the order. We have had a safety car called, and it will mean that we will be seeing a suspension of the race pace come at the end of this lap. And we're a little bit surprised there that one has been called, but still, that's the way it's played out. And as our drivers make the way on around here, well, I think the field is going to be required to bunch up in their order and slow down gradually here as they head to the time. And I think a lot of drivers will be changing on giving places back, depending on whether places were made or lost come the was lap number 2. But safety car comes on through there, and that gives us a brief respite to take you through the current order, which is Benjamin McCluskey leads after 2 laps of racing ahead of Andrew Pike, Paul Zanatacci P3 ahead of Jazz Spula, then Martin Shirley P5 ahead of Joseph Doble, then Dan Mould P7 ahead of Jamie Dory, Alan McCain P9, your prime leader, ahead of Lee Horn P10, and it's Mikey Doble P11 completing the run to best the rest position. In terms of your second and third place drivers in the prime class, Ben Altria currently in P13, second place prime, and in 2 place one in P15 is Daniel Downing, your final driver inside the top 3 of the prime class, with Alex Meredith and Sam Van P4, P5, P17 and P18 overall, and they have got between themselves and Downing Luciano Vitford. But as they make the way on through here, I do believe we do have the automated safety car in play, which means we will see at least 2 laps behind the safety car. So this lap plus another, and I believe it is due to a couple of drivers earlier on this race being involved in incidents and now having to have repair work done on the cars, and those do include what is Harley Bicknell, Mark Sykes, and also, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, Duncan Moraes and Mark Kent. So therefore, that I believe is the explanation for the safety car, and the fact we did have quite a significant shunt between the drivers earlier on in the racing, and what gives them an opportunity to get repaired and be back at the front of the field. But we're back towards the lead of the field, I should say, not at the very front. But as they make the way on through Fangio, well, right now, of course, this definitely is going to, slow the pace of the racing down. But on top of that as well, it is also going to play into the minds of our drivers in the fact that they now have what is less laps of racing. So therefore the tyres will go cold for a brief while, but once we do go racing once again, they'll have less laps, and the drivers who will benefit the most from this, of course, will be the Elantra drivers such as Daniel Downing here, or alternatively Andrew Pike, who we see here in P2. Given the Elantra's weakness under race conditions is typically the fact that it burns through its front tyres faster than any of its rivals, and normally in the final third of the race sees a significant drop off in its pace. Well, given the fact that we're spending 2 laps under the safety car as a minimum, well, that means the final third of the race suddenly becomes a single lap, if you will, i.e. it would be our 7th lap of racing at full pace, and therefore that's the only time we might see the Elantras start to fall off the cliff if they haven't overcooked their tyres when going racing. So as they make the way up towards Le Mans corner, it's definitely going to change the complexion of this race somewhat. It's been some time since we've seen a safety car, in fact, in this season of the NXTCC. I do believe our first ever safety car and our only safety car this season, I'm sure the race directors will correct me on this if I'm wrong, was at Brands Hatch, or if it wasn't at Brands Hatch, it was in round number 2. Albeit right now, this is the first safety car we've seen for a long time, and as Andrew Pike just gradually meanders his way down here behind Benjamin McCluskey, more of the drivers get set. And as they make the way up towards turn number 17, well, right now our drivers just heading on through and up towards the final corner of the lap. And as we do see Luke Jones in the JW Motorsport car just heading on down the back straight here, P21, well, he'll be thinking about the fact that right now he's got Matthew Addy in front of him, Isaac Doble behind him, so he'll be looking for an opportunity to go hunting for P6 of the prime class. And Jones, to be fair, in the 222 drive has been one of the understated drivers in the prime class this season. He perhaps not has had the spectacle results compared to some of his rivals, such as, say, Daniel Downing, Alex Meredith or Isaac Doble, but the one thing that Luke Jones has had is a rising run of form, and therefore been getting stuck in more and more with the racing as the season has gone on. Now they will go on to another safety car lap here, but after this one we expect the safety car will be in, given the fact we do have most of our drivers who were in the pit lane having repair work done after their incidents now coming back together. But whilst we do have a bit of a brief time, let's take a look back at that race start, ladies and gentlemen, and what a start it was. And in particular we do jump on board here with Joseph Doble a bit further down the order in terms of this race start, as we make a look back at the race in action. And this was number 11 driver who got a great start off the line, charging the side-by-side back to Wojciech Swirydowicz into the opening corner. And as he made his way into left hand, he could see there Zanatacci defending in the middle of the road. Meanwhile, what was Alan McCain there keeping the inside, and Swirydowicz in the end having to back off slightly initially, but still down the left. You can't quite see him, albeit now you can as he brakes a bit later. So Doble in the end having to be really wary of the amount of width available into turn number 3. But so great the race indeed, between a bit of contact there between Sebring and Zanatacci, but nothing that upset the balance of the two drivers. Meanwhile, as we look back to that race start from a bit further down the order, and in particular from Mark Kent's perspective, starting a long way back here, but still getting ready to go racing. And as he did so here, relatively slow start off the line for the Audi RS3 driver, and in fact, bogging down there and hitting the limiter in what was second gear, and the whole field breaking its way through, so Kent in the end not really able to make too much progress, and I think also deciding to stay out of the fighting and just simply let the field go and then try and pick up some places if there was any major instance on the opening couple of corners. So Kent being cautious with his return to the grid after multiple rounds being absent, but still great to see the Britain taking part this round. Turn to the live pictures, ladies and gentlemen. Those are a couple of the race starts from our drivers, one from towards the front of the field and one from towards the back of the field. As we look to our drivers just making the way on through here. What is Cunningham Corner? We're only half a lap away from most likely resuming the racing, and when we do, well, we are going to have what will be another 6 laps of racing to unfold here at the Sebring International Raceway. And for all our drivers now, they're going to be running out of patience, because as a driver at the end of the day, you don't want to be stuck behind a safety car, particularly when it's an automated safety car in iRacing. As compared to our manual safety cars, which we're not able to run today, it does mean that you're running at a very low pace around here. Indeed, you're running on the periphery of second or third gear, whereas normally when we do have our manual safety car, it's running a little bit quicker, and it does enable our drivers just to conserve a bit more tyre temperature. But a good point being raised there as well in the YouTube chat from Racing Game Show about the Elantra struggling in hot temperatures, and anything below 30 degrees centigrade is no issue for the Elantra, was we do show you the temperatures on the right hand side of your screen, your weather there. Well, currently we do have a track temperature of 27 degrees centigrade for an ambient of 26. So it does mean that we've got cool enough conditions here for the Elantra drivers not to feel as much of a pinch on those front tyres compared to their peers, and that will mean again the Elantras will have all the pace available to them from the resumption of this race all the way through to the finish. But as our field get ready to go for the race start, and as our drivers make the way down the Allman Straight, I think we have just had the confirmation we will be seeing the restart very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. So we're not too far away at the moment from going green flag racing. And when we do, it'll be to Benjamin McCluskey to take us to the green. Well, 49 miles an hour is what he'll be limited to as he makes his way on through the final corner. But rest assured, when he's got the right to go, he'll pick the right time to go. And as he makes his way out the final corner, we are green flag racing once again, ladies and gentlemen. McCluskey takes us on to lap number 5 and 9, looking to hunt down his first win of the season. And as he charges wound down, look at that on the right, your picture, Joseph Doble right now under major attack from what is Dan Mould and Jamie Dory. Doble on the inside here, Mould looking around the outside, but Doble on the inside of what is Martin Shirley as a result, fighting for the position immediately here, going from defence to offence in a single corner, albeit that's going to compromise his run up towards turn 3. Mould still keeping him honest. Meanwhile, Dory looking around the outside of Mould in turn, and Mould on that inside line having to brake prematurely. Mould, it's going to be Dory versus Mould all the way through turns 3 through to 5. Mould now trying to come back, trying to give the elbow to Dory to make him run a bit wide. Coming out of 5 does exactly that. And as they make the way on down through 6 up towards 7. Right now the number 13 driver, unlucky for some, but he reckons this is lucky door number, was they head in towards the hairpin. Right now he's got the fortune of Alan McCain trying to attack him from behind for what is P8 overall. But as they all come down into the concertina here of the hairpin, you can see that on the inside of Ben Aldridge, second place round drive, trying to keep Adam Delman behind in order to be able to make sure Daniel Downing can't get within fighting distance as they make the way into the second half of this race at full steam. But as they do as well, Reese Watt and what is Lee Horn just in front battling here. The two pro drivers going side by side into Cunningham, who's going to emerge leading coming out of it. It will be Horn there with Watt being given a run wide as they make the way through. But then again, it is going to be Horn who now gives him the space coming through Collier to have another run up towards Tower Corner. But then Watt backs out 9 that the outside doesn't work, switches the inside. Horn in the season coming but holds his line and not having to worry in the end. And as they make the way out of turn number 13 up towards turn number 15, they charge. We're right now in the nose of the tail run between these drivers. Will Delman still there on the offensive versus Watt, and as they come in towards the braking zone here for 15, it looks though Delman doing everything in his power to stay close, but not able to find a way to undermine the JW Motorsport driver. But from there, we look a little bit further back as Piotr Jigosleski up there carries on the race line, chasing after Alex Everett. Meanwhile, running wide, that is none other than Luke Jones, who rejoins off the race line, rejoins on the grass, coming out of Le Mans corner, trying to do it as safely as possible. But Jigosleski now on the offensive versus where's Alex Everett, as it's the battle for P8 in the prime class, and Jigosleski going for his best result of the season if he's able to pull this move off and hold on to it to the end of the race. Looking up the inside here in the battle of the two Hondas, onto the brakes he goes. very tight to that inside wall. Gets it settled, however, and as they make the way through, Everett's there with him. But Jacob Slesky, a great move of the Czech Republic driver, makes it count. Jay Calais now says, can I play too? As also does Jonathan Collins, as they make the way onto the next lap, as they charge their way down towards turn number 1. Meanwhile, the foreground of the picture, we can see Ben Altria. Well, he's on the inside versus Daniel down the outside, as right now, with Adam Delmont getting on through, it means that the battle for Peter in the prime class is well and truly firmly underway. Or is it, as Downing runs wide, and up his inside goes Luciano Vitford, and once again, the Goldwing Motorsports driver will be thwarted at his opportunity to go fighting for P2 in the class. As they make the way through turn number 5, and almost towards turn 6 and 7 when they come on through, and well, from them looking up towards the very front of the field, it's absolute pandemonium in the battle for what is P5 here. As you can see, Joseph Doble having to fight hard with what is Dan Mould, Martin Shirley, and also was oh my goodness, there's contact there. I think there was contact with Shirley versus Doble, and then what was Mould versus, that's Joseph Doble, Mould versus Joseph Doble as well, and in the end Mikey Doble gets on past what is, I do believe, Dan Mould, but Mould coming off the worst as a result of that scrap, but all the drivers coming in blazing hot. I think Patience running thin on some drives down to braking, and Mikey Doble able to capitalise on all of it as a result. And the Doble Sim Racing drive now up to P7 as they make the way on through Collier and up towards Tower Corner. But as they make the way on through the corners, we're going to very shortly try and take a look back at that, as Dan Mould has had to be towed to the pitch due to the damage picked up as a result of that contact between the drivers. We stay your live pictures for now, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see there Joseph Doble flashing his lights to Martin Shirley. Now, whether that's to distract or to try and send a message with regards to what happened to turn 7, we don't know the Morse code for it, but what we do know is that he's looking for the move here immediately into 15, and Joseph Doble throwing down the gauntlet here, and space being given by Martin Shirley, but of course this is going to cost the 2 time as he comes across, and in the end there's contact, and Mikey Doble sweeps on through there, and the loss of his brother. But meanwhile, Martin Shirley now trying to come back down the Allman Straight, and well, definitely things getting very fiery there between Joseph Doble and Martin Shirley. Mikey Doble in the middle of the road here, defending more and more to the inside as they make the way down Allman. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory there trying to look for a way on through, he can't find a way in, and Doble just simply shutting the door firmly shut. There is Mikey Doble in the number 88. Meanwhile, from them we look to the battle of the P3, and this is between Andrew Pike and Paul Zanatachi, as it's going to be Pike on the right of your picture, Zanatachi on the left of your picture at the back of the top 4 group. And as they make the way in towards turn number 1, well, right now Zanatachi's got a nose ahead, but Pike's on the inside. It's going to go the way of Pike. Meanwhile, behind here we've got Jamie Dory looking up the inside of Martin Shirley, I think with some damage on the car. Lee Horn meanwhile making it 3 wide with what was Adam Delman and Alan McCain, and as they make that out of the corner, here comes, oh my goodness, and there's contact there further back. That, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, it's the Goldwing Motorsport car, or is Daniel Downing being knocked out as Neil Horn comes into contact with what, and I don't know what's been said to the drivers between the last couple of laps, but I can tell you right now, there's a lot of red mist descending, and as they make the way on through turn number 5 in towards 6, well, their Horn at batting still as Alan McCain being given the elbow to what was a Ben Aldrea, and as they come out of Big Bend and up towards turn number 7 they go, with these drivers right now all starting to really dig in with their positions and knowing they haven't got long left in this race, and everyone really trying to find a way through. And Reese Watt looking up the inside, really trying to push on the move on the inside there into the hairpin, making it 3 wide at point. Further contact, Watts turns sideways across the front there of West Middle Trio's car, and Reese Watt's race comes to an abrupt halt. He gets the car turned round. That's going to be multiple places lost for Reese Watt as the car seems to beach in the grass there, and if so, he gets it started in the end, but Reese Watt's race takes a tumble. Meanwhile, for the loss of some, others will gain, and Sam Knowles now moves up to P2 in the Prime class with what's happened to his teammate Daniel Downey. He's holding Alex Meredith behind, but with an Oldham damage on the front of the car, I think it's going to be a question of when, not if, Meredith can look for a move here as they make the way on through. Meanwhile, looking back here to Andrew Pyatt versus Paul Zanatachi, the battle for P3. Well, that was coming through Bishop into turn 15, and Zanatachi losing the place there as they make the way through the right-hander in towards Le Mans corner. The turn 16 right-hander here now being Zanatachi's opportunity to try and go on the attack. We do see the question there from John Meredith from the YouTube chat. Any idea why the safety car? We are not 100% sure. I believe it was for instance involving 3 or 4 drives right towards the back of the grid, which led to it, but we will try and get confirmation on that in the break between races 2 and 3 and explain, John, when we return for race number 3. But focusing here and now on the racing as we go, and Zanatachi losing out versus Pike as they make the way in towards turn number 17, and as they come through the right-hander here with Pike right now firmly taking this position over, albeit brilliant battling between the 2 of them, and Zanatachi really right now looking for a great performance here, even if it's not on the podium. I think he'll be pleased with this now, Harley's fault. But meanwhile at the front of the field, well, right now it's NXTGEN Pink's Benjamin McCluskey, only 4 attempts clear, if that, from Jaroslav Sabula from Semper Racing. 2 laps to go, and Sabula's pace is coming on strong. That last lap, Sabula took a whole half a second out of McCluskey and set the fastest lap of the race, a 14.48. Could be this be the undoing of McCluskey with 2 laps to go, or will he be able to hold on here? We'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, as they make the way on through in towards Big Bend, from them we look back to Daniel Martin and what is, Alan McCain, your leader of the Prime class, who wants to keep Martin between himself and where Sam Van Knowles right now, gets it very close, and as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the Prime leader, McCain, I think, is worrying. He's fretting over the fact that right now he's got a very hungry pack of Prime drivers all coming up behind him, and the only one who can stop is Daniel Martin as they make the way under braking here into the turn 7 hairpin onto the anchors they go. Martin looking around the outside, through the right and to the left-hand kink they go. McCain still there, still keeping Martin at bay for now, albeit Daniel Martin with the damage on his car definitely will not be helping him whatsoever. And as they come in towards Collier Corner shortly, albeit first they got to get to Cunningham via Fangio, which you can see there, Van going around the outside onto the inside of Cunningham. Van going all in on the move. And the Goldwing Motorsport Audi makes it count and moves up to P12. And for him now, that's an important place, as it keeps him firmly in the reverse grid for the final race of the day. But more importantly now, it can open up an opportunity for him to go for his first win of the season. He has been denied twice this season. Can he get on the third time of asking here? Remember, of course, the reverse grid race in round 1 at Brands Hatch, when we all unfolded in disaster for Sam Van Knowles, and then only a couple of rounds ago in Germany where it happened again for the number 92 driver. But can he make it happen? He has got one more lap after this, and as he makes his way on through and out towards turn number 16, more like there, what is, I do believe, Neil Craig saying, amazing at race to spectate, and indeed also there what's being said by Handsome Shoe, plenty to keep us gripped, and indeed these drivers right now will be taking a deep breath before they go on to this final lap of racing. But unfortunately in the commentary booth we can't take a deep breath as they charge their way on down the Auburn straight, and Van Knowles looking around the outside, trying to go all the way round through Sunset Bend versus McCain as the sun does gradually set in the distance. And as they do, could this be the epiphany moment for Sam Van Knowles? Can he make this count as the white flag comes out? The final lap is coming up. Van Knowles is there, he can't quite get along, but in the end he does start to out-drag the Elantra. It's a drag race between the two machines. They roar their way up towards turn 1. Van Knowles looks on the inside, McCain on the outside. It's going to be a tight run. Van Knowles will get it to lead for the brief moment of the Prime class. But remember now, McCain will have the cut back here, but can he sweep it back? But Van Knowles steers clear. I think it's gone the way of Van Knowles, and Sam Van Knowles takes the Prime lead with 1 lap to go. Meanwhile behind, Daniel Martin comes blazing in, wanting to come back at McCain. He's seeing the door is open, and as he does, he gets into the inside of turn 5, and this could prevent McCain from mounting counter-having contact. Martin and McCain come together, and as they do, Martin is sent to the wall. McCain rejoins, but the damage is done to both drivers, and as they rejoin right now, Matthew Addy sees there's blood in the water and looks for a place past Wojciech McCain. Ben Altria as well, also Isaac Doble. They head on down Altria right now, parked in the middle of the road as they make the way in towards turn number 7, blocking hard on the inside. But from them, meanwhile, we look to your leaders, ladies and gentlemen, as this is the fight for the overall win. It's McCluskey versus Sabula, and as they come on through turn number 10 on towards 11 and 12, there's netco contact between the two of them as they make the way through the corner. They both regain their positions. McCluskey still on the inside into Tower, and as they come through the right hander behind, Pikins and Atachi are going back and forth for P3 as well. But we stay here with the leaders to the very end, and Sabila around the outside of Tower, and it's going to seal the position for now. Or is it going to be as they head down the Ulman? We'll see shortly. Meanwhile, we can see it's Anatachi and Pike nose to tail with Mikey Doble just behind in the battle for the final spot on the overall podium as they roar their way in towards what will be turn number 15. My Bishop's calls Anatachi looking around the outside. This is bold. You don't normally go around the outside of 15. It doesn't give you a chance at 16, but he's going to try for it here. And as they make the way into the right handle right now, Mikey Doble sees the doors open and says, why don't I go for it? Anatachi now has to try and fight from what will be P4 instead as Pike just pulls away. It's going to be a drag race to the two Velocitas all the way down the back straight. And as you can see, the toe being given to Zanatachi. But meanwhile, as they make the way into the final corner, these drivers have entered it already, and McCluskey holds onto a lead by 3 tenths. We can see that he's got back ahead of Sabila. I'm not sure if Sabila gave the place back given the contact, but either way, as they make the way up towards the checker flag, it's going to be Benjamin McCluskey who takes the checker flag and his first win of the season for Next Gen Ping. And just as Sabila with Andrew Pine P3 ahead of Mikey Doble, Paul Zanatachi, Martin Shirley P6, Adam Delwin ahead of Jamie Doyle Lehorn and Luciano Vitver. And here is your prime winner, and on the third time of trying, Sam Van Knowles does it for Goldwing Motorsport. He takes his first ever prime win in the second race of the day, ahead of Isaac Doyle and Alex Merritt to complete the prime podium. Matthew Addy just missed out, but P14, a great result there for the Next Gen with Sam Cases right ahead of Ben Aldrea, Alan McCain behind in a frustrating end of the race. Ian Manners P17 ahead of Daniel Downing, Piotr Jegowski P19 ahead of Jonathan Collins who completes your top 20. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have then Jay Calais P21 I should say ahead of Luke Jones. with Nick Clemens, Gavin Garner and Alex Everett completing your top 25. All of our race finishers have already come on through, and well, goodness me, what a race number 2 it has been. And in the end, as much as Jazz Sabula looked for a way in, and at one point it looked like he did have a chance, but I think a little bit of netcode contact upsetting the 2 drivers, and indeed in the end Sabula doing the sportsmanship, taking the sportsmanship approach of giving the place back to McCluskey, and well, McCluskey in the end taking the win. But either one of them could have won it, and either one of them would have been deserving, ladies and gentlemen, and both of them hunting their first wins overall of the season. But it went the way of McCluskey in this race, with Sabula just behind him. Andrew Pike in the end having to dig in hard for that 3rd place spot ahead of Mikey Doble and Paul Zenatachi, and whilst he may not have finished on the podium in this race, Zenatachi for Affinity will look back on this and be pleased. A top 5 finish. He's been fighting hard for those all season. He's not had the luck when they've come his way, but in this race he made it count and almost had a podium with it. And meanwhile in the Pro-Am class, well, after 9 laps of race, 2 under safety car, Sam Van Olst finally, at the 3rd time of leading a race, takes the Pro-Am win that he's been coveted for all season. His first ever NXTCC Pro-Am win, and the Goldwing Motorsport driver, I think, will be absolutely screaming in that car right now in joy, for the simple reason, whilst it did come at the expense of teammate Daniel Downing to a degree, he's finally brought it home when it's all gone wrong for him so many times before. A surprise P2 for Isaac Doble in the Pro-Am class, P12, but a great result there for the Doble Sim Racing driver, and that's a big haul of points early on in the racing, with race number 3 coming up soon, and Alex Meredith returning to the podium there and taking the final guaranteed reverse grid position, with the reverse grid for race 3 being anywhere between P13 and P23, and he knows he will be there as a minimum in that reverse grid, and they'll be hoping for a low number to be drawn out of the bowl. But as they all make their way into the pit lane, what a second race of the day. Indeed, so much going on at so many different points of the race. It got very fiery between our drivers so very quickly once the safety car made its way in, and that always happens when we have a safety car. Our drivers suddenly get galvanised to the point whereby even the hottest are still be melted by the ferocity of their racing. And well, as we do see, our drivers are all making their way into the pits, including Craig Tillotson there for FR20 Sim Racing, who picks up another point for another P15 Pro-Am finish there. A great result for the 34 driver, continuing to pick up those small points, small but important in the minds of our lower place Pro-Am drivers. It's all important to them, every single point they fight for, as everyone comes into the pits. Let's take a look back at those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after our second race of the day in round 8 of the NXTCC Season 5 powered by IMB Racewear, Benjamin McCluskey, your winner for Next Gen Pink by 3 attempts over Semper Racing's Jazz Sabula. iRacing Esports is Andrew Pike, P3 there, a further 3.5 seconds behind, but still fighting hard with Mikey Doble and Paul Zenatachi to take the final spot on the podium, with the Doble Sim Racing and 30 drivers finishing P4, P5 respectively. Martin Shirley, P6 ahead of Adam Delman, with the RD Sim Sport driver there doing well to limit the damage of his race, given where he started on that reverse grid, and Adam Delman fighting hard for a P7 for SRL Next Gen, and then Jamie Dory P8 for Next Gen Pink ahead of Next Gen with Sam Case's Lee Horn, who claims another overall top 10, and a great result there for the 36 driver. Luciano Vitford P10 after an awful start, saw him drop all the way down to the bottom end of the top 20, but fight his way back to P10 for Brabham Esports. He'll be happy with that and finishing 1 second clear as Sam Van Olst best the rest overall, but most importantly for the Goldwing Motorsport driver, his first Pro-Am win of the season, and doing it in style. 1 second clear of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing ahead of Alex Meredith for RD Simsport, who completed your Pro-Am podium. Congratulations to all 3 drivers there in a highly eventful last 3 laps in the Pro-Am class, with Matthew Addy P14, P4 in class for Next Gen with Sam Cases, head of Full Tilt Motorsports Ben Altria, who completed the Pro-Am top 5 and with it the overall top 15. Your top 20 was completed by Alan McCain after that unfortunate incident between himself and what was Martin Shirley, and well, he took P16 ahead of Ian Manners, with Daniel Downing finishing ahead of the pair of Piotr Jegowski and Jonathan Collins, and Collins there for Whiskey Runners Racing, picking up one of his best results of the season and completing our top 20 for him. That was, I do believe, a P9 in the Pro-Am class. Jay Clay, P21 ahead of Luke Jones, with Nick Clemens, Gavin Garner and Alex Everett completing the top 25. Then Daniel Martin at P26 for RD Simsport ahead of Joseph Doble, and then it was the top 30 rounded off by Paul Scott, Duncan Rise and Craig Tillotson. We can then see what was James Mansell P31 ahead of Mark Kent, with Reese Watt and Harley Bicknell completing your drives who finish on the lead lap down the P34 for JW Motorsports pair, and then Aztec Racing Matthew Sheraton a lap down P35 ahead of Next Gen with Sam Case's Mark Sykes. 4 laps down, Dan Mulder, that unfortunate retirement, but will be classified as a race finisher as he did complete over half the race distance. And then we can see Wayne Douglas unfortunately retiring after 1 lap of racing, and William Guthrie retiring after the open lap due to issues with the car after a rather nasty incident. But 39 starters, and in the end a grand total of what was 37 classified finishers, 34 of which were on the lead lap. Well, with that, ladies and gents, we've got one more race to come, and the reverse grid will be drawn very shortly for race number 3. It is the large reverse grid race, of course, and to settle things in round number 8 at Sebring International Raceway. But all the drivers will be itching to know what the reverse grid number will be, and we're itching to know as well. So without further ado, it is time for us to conduct the reverse grid draw. And hello to you all once again. And as we all get set and ready to go, well, we've got a lottery bowl, but this time we need to draw 2 numbers out of the bowl. And without further ado, let's close our eyes and get to it. So that's our first shuffle, and we draw our first ball out of the bowl. And our first ball is going to be the number 6. So the number 6 makes another appearance this week, and it is going to be a relatively limited maximum reverse grid. But then we've got another number to draw, and as we do, let's see what it is. And as we draw the second number out the bowl, it is going to be the number 11 that returns twice tonight. So it will be a top 17 reverse grid, and Ian Manners finds himself on pole position for the final race of the day, albeit with what will be a field of 6 primes behind him, before then the entirety of the Pro Top 10 field rounding out that grid. It's going to be an odd final race of the day, because Manners may have a chance to take his first win of the season overall, but then again we have plenty of primes who will all be fighting for that overall win just as much as their class win. It's definitely going to be a dramatic final race of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to be back in approximately 5 minutes for the build up to our final race and plenty more, so don't go anywhere, you won't miss it. But just as we get ready to step away, of course we are going to have a word from our sponsor, and that is of course for this season our title sponsor of IMB Racewear. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we return then for the build-up for our final race of the day. Race 3 of 3 here at the Sebring International Raceway. And goodness me, I mean, we've only just had approximately 5 to 6 minutes of a break, but we've needed a breather after that race number 2, and there's so much to talk about. Firstly, let's talk a little bit about what triggered off, or what really started the fantastic racing we saw to the end, albeit also saw some tempers flare up and saw some close collisions between drivers, and that was the safety car. Now, I've had a chance to run in amongst the race control team in what was the gap between races 2 and 3, and I can confirm, whilst it wasn't on camera, that we did see the deployment of the safety car, the automated safety car, which we should point out we are using at this point in time in the NXTCC, as our manual safety car at the moment is not available for the remainder of the season due to a technical issue that our manual safety car driver is experiencing with their racing hardware. But we do hope to see our safety car driver back and therefore having our manual safety car in the future. That's why we've had to go with the automated safety car, which has a minimum of 2 laps. But the reason why we saw the triggering of the safety car was because off camera, coming out of Sunset Bend, there was a 5-car collision involving multiple drivers. I do believe, whilst it was drivers primarily towards the back end of the field, those drivers ended up being scattergunned around the circuit. So whilst they had a major shunt just before the pit lane entry, in the end, most of the drivers were gradually trickling their way around the circuit. And to make sure that A, we could get them to the pits, but also B, to make sure that if they were still out of the circuit as the rest of the field continued to race around, they didn't suddenly intervene the racing. Well, we took the approach much like you would see in real life in BTCC, which is we've got multiple cars going around the circuit in a heavily wounded state, and they could potentially pose a risk to the other drivers out there. Then we did call the safety car to get them off the circuit, get them repaired back out in the field. And whilst we don't want to do it, of course, for the simple reason it cuts the racing away and cuts the racing time down at the same time as well. I'm sure you guys and girls at home will appreciate where it's on the simulator in the real world. We don't want to see any huge smashes between our drivers, and if we do see them, we want to see it as a result of hard, firm but fair and absolutely intense racing, and that's why we did have to make the call in the end. So we appreciate you understanding that, and hopefully that does answer the question that was raised by John Meredith in the YouTube chat as to why we had the safety car. But to reiterate, it was due to a 5-car collision coming out of Sunset Bend onto the start-finish straight, and in the end we had multiple cars limping around the circuit that weren't being towed, and therefore we did have to call the safety car as a precautionary measure. Not something we wanted to do, but we had to do it as per the rules we operate to here at Next Gen Racing. But now, coming on to this build-up to race number 3, we're not going to be hearing from our drivers here. I think they all need about to focus on it in the race coming up. But indeed, we have got a very unique reverse grid. We have Ian Manners, who will be taking the final pole position of today, and he'll be starting ahead of 6 prime drivers who will all be lined up behind him, all fighting for the prime win and also fighting for what will be the right to be on the overall podium, potentially an overall win of their own. One of whom will be Alex Meredith, who will be looking to try and end his racing today on an even higher note from the podium finish in what was the second race of the day. The 44 driver will be itching for that, as will Matthew Addy, a prime driver who's had a very difficult season so far, being in the pro class, then switched to the prime class with the performances not quite there in the early rebalancing and reshuffling the classes. And Next Gen with Sam Casey's driver will now be looking at a golden opportunity to make his way back onto the top step of the prime podium, and it would be a long time since we've seen him up there. But of course as well, we do have multiple pros who'll be starting behind those 6 prime drivers, including of course second place championship overall driver Mikey Doble. And with the absence of Wojciech Swirydowicz, today is the opportunity for him to gain some levity back in the championship standings, despite the drop score being accounted for. And indeed, Mikey Doble right now be thinking one and only one thing, that will be to take the podium overall, if not take the race winner overall, in order to get as many points as possible. Well, as the clock continues to tick away, we are only 10 seconds away from getting ready to head to the grid. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Do let us know who you're cheering on, expecting to win in this final race of the day. Could it be Ian Manners, who holds on and breaks away from the prime field to take his first ever overall win? Could we see one of our primes take the win? Or could we see one of our old staples such as Mikey Doble, or alternatively what will be Daniel Martin? Well, all that and more is about to be found out, as here we go to the grid for race number 3. So as our drivers make their way to the grid, this is how they'll line up for the final race of the day. It is Ian Manners who takes pole position for JW Motorsport ahead of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports. That's your overall and prime pole sitters, and then behind them will be Ben Altrier and Matthew Addy. Alex Meredith lines up P5 ahead of Isaac Doble, with Sam Van Alsten and Luciano Vitfoot completing your full throw. The top 10 is completed by Lee Horner and Jamie Dory, with Adam Delman and Martin Shirley outside the top 10 on row number 6, and then we do have on row number 7 Paul Zanatachi and Mikey Doble ahead of Andrew Pike and Jaroslav Sebula. Benjamin McCluskey and Daniel Danning complete what is row number 9 ahead of Piotr Jigosleski and Jonathan Collins to complete the top 20. Jay Calais and Luke Jones on row number 11 ahead of Nick Clemens and Gavin Gardner. And then we have on row number 13 Alex Everett and Daniel Martin with Joseph Doble and Paul Scott on row 14 ahead of Duncan Rise and Craig Tillerston. James Mansell's Gavin Reeswatt line up on row 16 ahead of Harley Bicknell and Matthew Cheverton. And then it's Mark Sykes who starts P35. Last but not least, the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. The lights are going on, and it's going to be 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our final race of the day as Ian Manners looks to get a good start off the line, but as they all charge their way down towards turn number 1, Alan McCain tucking in behind there with Manners getting the best start he possibly can. This is ideal for the JW Motorsport driver as they all come through, and as they do so here, everybody right now in cold conditions, cold tyres, cold brakes, they all go deep, and it's going to be McCain who retakes into the lead then as they make their way up in towards turn number 3. Onto the brakes they all go. Constantino effective motion 3 wide further back as that is going to be Isaac Doble fighting his way on through and trying to fend off with Luciano Vitfer as they make their way side by side through turn number 5. Albeit Doble on the outside, there's going to have Matthew Addy for company now, as meanwhile here comes Jamie Dory trying to find his way on around the outside, as does Adam Delmont as they pound their way through Big Ben. But Dory tucks the inside now as they make their way up towards the hairpin at turn number 7. Nighttime descent here, albeit the lights are firmly on, so our drivers will be able to see most of the racing line. And as they come down to the brakes here, Aaron Constantino, it's going to be 3-4 wide under the attacking braking zone. And as they all come through, all the drivers make it, albeit a little bit argy-bargy there. And some drives force wide out onto the dust, and as they make the way there, Adam Dillon having to slow down due to chat limits being invalidated. And as they come in towards what will be Cunningham corner, with Dolman is going to lose the progress he's made early on. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory being passed around the outside there by Matthew Addy, who goes in very late on the brakes. Isaac Doble holds it firm, but meanwhile, at the front of the field, this is Ben Altria, who fights his way on past Alan McCain and Ian Manners. We catch the tail end of the battle, and as they make the way under braking here, Alex Meredith now getting involved, and what we thought was going to happen has come true. The Primes right now, in their fury and fire, wanting to take an overall win, are all scrambling after Ian Manners, and Manners right now, you could argue, is being bullied by Pro-Ams, but as they charge their way through Bishop's corner, he's going to try and fight back, there's no doubt about it, as they make the way in towards turn number 15. Onto the brakes they go, and Lee Horn looking up the inside. He's had a stellar start to this race, and next gen Sam Casey's driver would love an opportunity to take an overall win of his own. But meanwhile, we see the car get fired off in the rear of the picture. We're not quite sure who that was. I believe it might have been what was Paul Scott, but we'll get an update on that very shortly as our drivers make the way on through and down the Allman Straight here. Well, right now, everybody started to tuck back in, getting nicely in the tail one another. But meanwhile, Altria defends hard on the inside. McCain looking around the outside. They go in towards the right-hander of what is turn number 17. And as they wrap the way and around, Altria will continue to hold the lead for now. Albeit as we ride aboard and look back from the rear of the 40 Motorsport Lancia right now, Eagle Machinery charges its way onto another lap. And as they make the way onto lap number 2, it's Altria ahead of McCain for a brief moment. But will McCain be going on around the outside here into the opening corner? Well, here we go as they make the way through the left-hander, and will McCain in the end on the outside having to back off there, but looks at the cutback as Altria goes very, very deep, almost to the grass, and it's going to be McCain on the inside here for the overall prime lead as they make the way into turn number 3. And as they do, McCain makes it count. Oh, does he? He does not. There's contact, and he sends it barreling back across the road, and as he does, Lee Horney and being picked up as he makes his way through and damage the front suspension of Lee Horn's car, will collapse his car and put him out of the race, surely, as that means that Ian Manners now returns to the lead of the overall race, and with it as the Primes behind him with Alex Meredith now. It's a dramatic twist of events, and as they make the way on down here, you can see Ben Altria having to limp the car off the road. The car's not going anywhere, but meanwhile, contact there between Mikey Doble and Jaroslav Sebula. Sebula's fired off to the outside there as he rejoins, but that is definitely going to be not where Sebula wants to be as he rejoins behind Mikey Doble and drops down to P10. But right now this does open up the racing completely towards the front of the field, and a lot of drivers who started a bit further back inside this reverse grid, even those that started outside of it, will now be looking for opportunities further up the field as Martin Shelley drifted his way on through Cunningham corner, rear end of that Honda, letting go for RD Simsport, and hopefully that's not a sign of some damage that's been picked up on the car and just cold tyres and cold temperatures. But as Doble looks up the inside here into town, he's got to go for it. Doble's got to go all in here and dig in with the experience he has both in real life and the simulator to pick up the points, because right now rounds running out in the championship, and as they make their way into Bishop's Corner, well, meanwhile, it's going to be Shirley on the inside, coming on through, but to the right-hander of 15 they'll go. Doble retakes the inside now in this hard fight for P8, and as they make their way through right into the left here, this is going to be tough. It's two championship contenders fighting hard here for the right to take on Swirydowicz when he returns to the grid in the week's time, or as they make their way out to turn 16. Doble right now absolutely firmly defends the inside, immediately making his intentions clear, but as you can see, Shirley now looking around the outside. Meanwhile, Pike tucking in behind as well. Also Matthew Addy trying to get into the hunt as they make their way in towards Sunset Bend. Well, the sun may have truly set, but the fighting hasn't, as they come through the right-hander when the Doble successfully defended there. Make sure that Shirley and Pike will fight each other instead as they come through the right-hander onto lap number 3. They'll go very shortly, but as they do, still Pike and Shirley fighting for P9 behind. But Mikey Doble takes the P8 for a brief moment with Matthew Addy making his way on behind. We ride on board here with the NXTGEN with Sam Case, P4 prime driver, as he gets a face full of the fighting between the drivers here as they come in towards turn number 1, and as they do, it's going to be Shirley on the inside. Pike goes a little bit deep, can't quite get the momentum back on his rival, and as they make their way up towards turn number 3, onto the brakes they go. Multiple cars into the pit lane after the major shunt we did see for multiple drivers as a result of the Altria contact, and Lee Horn subsequently coming into the scene, but as they all make their way through turn number 5 will mean, well, at the front of the field we have a driver who's soaring his way out to P2. It's Bram Esports' Luciano Vitford, and right now Cool Shark Racing, who's cheering him on, keeping his eyes on his driver, his favourite driver out there, and Vitford continues to push his way through as he makes his way up towards what is turn number 10, and as they charge way through, with the only driver who stands between the Bram Esports driver and victory now is Ian Manners, and while Manners has not been in this position before, can he hold on for the win given Vitford's pace? We'll have to wait and see. We've got a long journey left in this race. We're only on lap 3 of 9, and with that we've got a huge portion of race distance to go, and Vitford here will be building himself up for an overtake, which I'm sure he'll try to do. But as they make the way on towards turn number 13, onto the brakes these guys go, and from them we look back here to Gavin Gardner, who making his way on the inside versus Sabula in towards Tower Corner. The NXTGEN pink driver here making it look like clockwork, but Sabula looking for the cutback, but in the end the Audi driver gets the better position. Sabula cuts back too soon and almost takes a bit of the rear bumper off of the Audi, and instead now has to look around the outside of Bishop to get the inside of 15. Well, but this could work out as they make the way to the corner, and as they do, Sabula there on the inside onto the brakes in the Veloster, but Gardner still staying there firmly in position as they make the way through the left into the right Kings, and as they come out in towards Le Mans Corner, Sabula defending hard here for the position. Gardner as well, still making it too wide, and that's a drag race, and this is where of course the Audi excels compared to Velocity. It just has the leverage up the gearbox as they power the way through it. Meanwhile, into the lead goes Luciano Vitford as he looks up the inside in towards turn number 17 to Sunset Bend. Ian Manners then not quite able to respond, and the lead is taken away from him, and we take a look back at the move. Whereas the drag race up towards turn number 17 here, and Vitford already along the inside before the braking zone, and I think Manners in the end decide not to contest it too hard. Now there's a long way left in this race, and wary of the fact that Vitford's pace, particularly his pole position lap, is an indicator there would be a question of when, not if, more moves would come. And I think in the end, I think Manners just focusing on trying to bring home the best possible result within his means to do so, and sometimes you've got to be tactical like that. You don't always want to be that way, but sometimes by being a little bit pragmatic, it can work out and enable you to still score some huge points and still land a big result. As we return to your live pitches onto lap number 4 now, and Sam Van Ol's chasing after Isaac Doble after taking his first ever prime win in the previous race. The Goldwing Motorsport driver now on the attack versus Doble as they made their way through Big Bend. From them to a bit further back, we've got a battle meanwhile between Jegoslavsky and Bignall, and Harley Bignall looking up the inside to try to defend for a move that he made into turn number 1. These guys are fighting for P8 of the prime class, it should be said, so a key position for them as well, and also for JW Motorsport, a load of points they'll be looking for in their rivalry with what is the other teams at the bottom end of the top 10 the team's championship. But Jegoslavsky doing well to come back versus Bignall, and Nick Clippard's getting on through, and the iRacing Sports driver now looking around the outside. He wasn't on the grid for race 1, but he's been on the grid for races 2 and 3, and as they come into the hairpin, well, Clippard's looking for the cutback, but then cutting back too soon, taking too much the apex off and having to tuck in behind the Czech driver once more as they make the way up towards Fangio Corner. But as they do, and right now Clippard's looking for a further move. Meanwhile, we look further back up into P12 and the fight for it with Gavin Gardner holding on for NXTGEN Pink as they come out to the right hand of what was their Cunningham, and now making the way on through as they do power their way up towards the next corner. In fact, coming out to Tower Corner there and in towards Bishops, we should say. The next gen pink driver with Sebula, McCluskey, Watt and Delman behind. We'll keep in mind, of course, Benjamin McCluskey having the maximum success ballast in the car and a P17 starting position. He's gained 3, but this is perhaps the hardest race in which to make places and go for back-to-back wins, given the fact he's got so much weight in the car right now, and that's going to be holding back as a minimum. We've seen the very best not able to make much progress in race number 3 traditionally this season. As he makes his way down the Allman Straight, he's going to go defensive with Reeswatt looking around the outside, and the Audi RS3 at JW Motorsport machine right now looking strong, looking firm, but McCluskey's also going to get his elbows out here to try and hold the position for P14. And a couple of points, 4 points of P14 finish will always be worth a lot. As they come through the right-hander, onto the next lap they go onto lap number 5. Well, what is still there? Delman now also started to get into the mix. We ride aboard with the SRL Next Gen driver looking down from the roof and over the bonnet of the car. And as they made their way into the corner, you can see that Delman absolutely siphoned to the inside and seeing the door was open versus McCluskey. And McCluskey are just sitting dark as meanwhile running wide is Reeswatt. He rejoins there. Well, he's going to be careful about running wide too many times there, because if he seeks to gain an advantage, the race director will be on the radio to him to say that's a warning. And as they make the way through turns at 3, 4 and 5, well, Delman right now seals the deal versus McCluskey, but his next target will be Watt and then Sebula. And how far can Delman go in the closing stage of this race? As they head up towards turn at number 7. Meanwhile, Van Olsen versus Isaac Doble. It takes another turn. That's Doble up the inside into turn number 7. Van Olsen looking around the outside trying to hold on, but Doble makes the move count. Here comes Mikey Doble as well, and now the two brothers will try to work together to gain 2 places at the price of 1 corner, but Mikey Doble's not going to have the easiest time versus Van Olsen as they make the way flat out here through turn at number 9 through Fangio curve they go. Onto the brakes for Cunningham, and as they do, Doble on the left, meanwhile Van Olsen on the right, and as they make the way through right into left here, well, it is still going to be on between the duo as they come on around there, and in the end, Savanos just manages to outrun Mikey Doble to the apex of turn number 12 and forces the pro second place driver in the Overall Championship to have to go all into Tower Corner. Still respectful racing between as they make the way. This is fantastic stuff as they make the way in towards Bishop's Corner, and as they come in towards the left-hander, Mikey Doble being made to put 2 wheels onto the grass there. Such is the grit and determination. He wants to try and find the place of the Van Olsen, but in turn, Van Olsen getting in the bare minimum room, if that, as they come in towards turn number 14 through 15 and into 16 they go into Le Mans Corner, and as they do, Martin Shirley and Andrew Pike are caught up behind this right now, and Sam Van Olsen is not giving in as a flash of lights there from Mikey Doble to distract, and also I think to say, well, you might have run me out of a bit of space there, but right now Van Olsen keeping his head down, and we're all fired up after that result in our second race of the day, no doubt about it, as they make the way in towards turn number 17. But as they do, and through the right hand they go, Doble right now having to look for another opportunity. Meanwhile, Reeswatt still fighting here with Adam Delman as the two make the way side by side through Sunset Bend. They're still going at it after whilst we caught them, and what there in a little bit of contact with Delman, I believe, and as a result the car becoming unsettled, as meanwhile on the inside on the left there, you can see coming to the outside into turn 1, that is none other than Stav Sabulo who's having to defend versus Matthew Addy and Adam Delman, and as they make the way into left-hand here, well, Watt is still ahead of Matthew Addy by a sliver, and in the end, McCluskey right now looking onto the back of this and trying to get involved here, looking for his way up the inside, well, in fact, around the outside of what will be Addy, and Addy letting it go. No, he's not really part of this battle, and just waited to see how it all unfolds in front of him. As they make the way through turn at number 5. Well, from then we look back to Ian Manners as Luciano Vitford breaks away of the field at the front of your camera. Meanwhile, Manners under pressure from Alex Meredith. Meredith goes all in, looking for a second place overall here today, but Manners isn't going to go away anytime soon, and as they make the way side by side out to the hairpin, when in the end, Meredith definitely very firm under attack, but meanwhile, Manners in turn very firm on the defence there, and it is the question of the unstoppable force meets the immovable object here, with Meredith being the force and the object being Manners, who will win out the two. And right now, Manners is staying firmly put in P2. He's not giving in as they make the way all through. Remember, this will be a season best result for both drivers here, regardless of where they finish. But if they both finish if one of them finishes P2, they'll be happier than the other, understandably. But as they come out of what will be turn number 10, number 12 and 13, and onwards towards Bishops they go. We'll charge on down here. We've only got 3 more laps after this one, and right now, Meredith trying everything at this one, but Manners getting into a groove here. But as they make the way in towards the right-hander of 15, we ride aboard and look back from the rear of the car of Sam Van Olsen that continues to have what is Martin Shirley behind after Mikey Doble finally found his way on through as they make the way in towards what will be turn number 16 here. Well, you can see just behind Andrew Pike also looking for an opportunity. But so you may be wondering how exactly in the end did Mikey Doble make his way past Sam Van Olsen, given the firm defending we saw. Well, here's a replay to explain. was in the run all the way down towards turn number 7. You can see Van Olsen on the right of your picture, Doble on the left under braking here, and as they made the way through the corner, in the end, Doble having to be a bit more aggressive under braking, and then Van Olsen having to relinquish the move, as Pike meanwhile just sat there, flashing his lights versus Martin Shirley, and well, as we return to live pictures, going on to now was the final third of this race, and we look back to Reece Watt here on your live pictures. He looks to drag race his way past Adam Delman and Worth. We had a penny for every time we've seen these two fight in this race, then right now we wouldn't quite be a millionaire, but I think we'd be the best part of what would be about 20 pence more richer by comparison. And as they make the way through turn number 1 and up towards turn number 3, we can see here Watt once again having to defend hard, and that Audi, for all the speed he's bringing to it, it does look as though there's some damage on the car, and it's just costing him the ability to be able to break away from Delman, who is constantly coming back at him. And it's the contrast as well, the Audi that's strong in the straights versus the Honda that's very strong in the braking zones of the corners, and as they come on through Big Bend, and we say hello there to Sean Spiller in the YouTube chat. Welcome to you, Sean, hope you're doing well. And as they make the way in towards what is turn number 7, well, right now Reece Watt under more pressure from Delman. Delman looks up the inside but too far back to go in, and Watt right now definitely showing he's got what it takes to mix it up with some of the very best in the pro class. Delman being right up there in the evaluation as they come on through Fangio from them. Meanwhile, we do look a little bit further up the road, in particular to Ian Manners, who right now still hold on to P2. He's got Alex Meredith behind, but notice how Dorian Paul Zanatachi have closed up as a result. These 4 drivers now all fighting for the runner-up spot overall, as Luciano Vitfoot continues to just gradually creep away at the front of the field. He's now 3.6 seconds clear and running off with this race win, so potentially looking to make it 2 wins out of 3 here today, plus also a pole position of what will be his best performance of the season. But meanwhile, Manners here under increasing pressure to hold on for a season best of his own, and well, some would say he inherited it as a result of the reverse grid, but even when you start on pole, you've got to make that defense count when you're not the fastest driver out there, and that's exactly what Manners is trying to do as he makes his way down the back straight. But meanwhile, in the back of this group, we ride on board here with the Affinity driver Paul Zanatachi as nighttime continues to descend here in the United States of America, and as they make the way up towards Sunset Bend there, Dory taking a cheeky peek versus Meredith, trying to get into Meredith's mind, trying to get him to make a mistake, but in the end, Dory goes a bit deep. Zanatachi follows him, but as he brings the car back together, he rejoins as they bundle their way over the concrete slash. You can just see the cars bouncing around there, and well, for those who wondered, does that change the way they brake into the corner? Yes, it does, and if you brake whilst the car's going over a bump, it can unsettle the car and make it go excruciating deep into the corner. So that's why it's so challenging here on the opening and the opening portion and the latter in portion of the circuit to get things right under braking, for the simple reason we are braking over multiple bumps and surface changes in quick succession. As they make the way in towards turn at number 3, Zanatachi right now just staying behind and looking for an opportunity versus Dorian, but I think hoping as well that perhaps the 3 drivers in front of him will all start to trip over one another, and now enable him to pick up multiple places rather than having to exhaust his energy on just making 1 move count. But as they come on through Big Bend from them, meanwhile we do look back to Mikey Doble here, still chases after Isaac Doble, with the 2 Doble brothers now clear of Martin Shirley and Sam Bernals, where they're trying to work together, no doubt about it, as meanwhile Shirley going defensive here on the inside, looking at the inside of Bernals as well, but more importantly to keep Pike behind. So I think Sam Bernals may have to settle for P3 unless he can find a way past Mikey Doble. That's going to be easier said than done, there's no doubt about it, as I think Isaac meanwhile is having his brother act as a little bit of a rear guard and just giving him the push along to the end of the race to assist in the team's championship for Doble Sim Racing, and also to make sure that Isaac Doble's prime championship crown moves closer come the end of this round. Or as they make the way out of turn 10 and up towards Tower of 13, all the drivers right now absolutely pushing on here. You can see the long line of pros building up in this long concertina line, with Reece Watt there tucked behind Jastos Mueller and Adam Delman still there in the wings, albeit Delman not able to find the way back versus Reece Watt at this time. As the 2 achieve a bit of a stalemate between them, as they make the way onwards towards where it's turn number 15 onto the brakes here. It could just take 1 small mistake from one of the drivers at the front of this group to cause it all to blow wide open in terms of the fighting we see. And we're speaking of that, as Mikey Doble there having to hold the inside line, it's a better run for Sam Bernals. Bernals is now going to come back out of Le Mans. It's a drag race on through in towards Sunset Bend. Bernals has got the toe of Isaac Doble as well, so this is going to really prove to be a difficult one for the Doble Sim Racing pair to try and fend off as a pair as they make their way in towards turn number 17. In they go. Vernals around the outside, Isaac Doble on the inside, and as they come through the right hand here, everybody coming together, nose to tail, and as they make their way through the right hander, well, meanwhile, we've had an instant for Jamie Dory. Jamie Dory is limping along the start finish straight there with a car that's missing the rear bumper and also the trunk of the car, or the boot, if you will, depending on your nomenclature. And as they come into turn one, Dory's going to make it 3 wide with Isaac Doble in the middle, Sam Vernals around the outside. This is going to be very different up with Dory just trying to get out of the way of the racing. When a wounded car, he can't do so. Everybody's coming together here as they go to the final lap, and onto the brakes they go. Isaac Doble with the inside, Vernals around the outside here. This is an absolute nightmare for the Pro Championship leader. Vernals, meanwhile, is absolutely attacking left, right and centre. He's absolutely feral right now. He's had a taste of victory. He wants more. He wants more on the podium of the Prime, so they make their way through Big Bend. He can't quite find it there after running wide at turn number 5, but he's going to look again as they make their way in towards the hairpin. And as they come on down, Mikey Doble, meanwhile, looking up the inside here, trying to come to the aid of his teammate and brother as he's on the inside versus Vernals, and will Vernals in the end being given a bit of an elbow there. I don't think he'll be too pleased how that's played out, but in the end, Mikey Doble coming on through and now getting back ahead of Vernals on an important time coming on through the hairpin. But as they make their way in towards turn number 10, onto the brakes they go. Everybody scattering wide now. Oh, looking too wide as they make their way in towards Cunningham Corner, and Gordon looking around the outside of Pite. Martin Shirley, meanwhile, just behind with Justin Speed, and Adam Delman still right there with him. And where you look, if one drive pulls offline, it could cost them multiple places. And Gardner is having to think, do I go for it, do I not? And as they come through the corners here, on towards what will be Bishop very shortly. Well, Adam Delman, they're getting side by side now with Stabula as they make the way on towards what will be turn number 15 shortly onto the inside of Bishop. And Stabula gives up the place for a brief moment, albeit as they come in towards turn number 15 here. This is going to be the calm before the storm down the Allman Straight. Or you can bet yourself on that with regards to the fact these drivers right now all building up for a crescendo. But meanwhile, as they make the way into Le Mans Corner, we need to look at one man who's making his way to the end of the Allman Straight. Into Sunset Bend he goes, and as he after making his way into lead, he's never looked back. He took pole position today. He took the win in race number 1, and after a change in race number 2, he's back on the top step for race number 3. It's Luciano Vitford who takes another win for Brabham Esports in a dominant drive, ahead of Ian Manners, who will come on through in the end to P2 for JW Motorsport, taking his season best performance ahead of Paul Zanatachi, who finally finds the podium after 8 rounds this season, ahead of Alex Meredith, your winner in the Prime class. And then it'll be Isaac Doble, 5th place overall, 2nd place in Prime, ahead of Jamie Dory, with Sam Vernals completing the Prime podium, P7, ahead of Mikey Doble, Gavin Gardner, P9, ahead of Andrew Pike. And as more of the drivers make the way on through, well, we do have a bit further back what will be a Piotr Jegosleski, who comes on through very shortly for P8 in Prime, his best result of the season. P21 overall ahead of Alex Everett for Crest Autosport, and then it will be coming to the timeline shortly after. As you can see in the rear of the picture there, they're battling hard. Jay Calais just holds off Josie Doble, with Ben Altrier behind as well for P23 through to P25 overall, and then it will be Craig Tillerston who comes on through to take a P12 in the Prime class, and even more points and a season best performance for the FR20 Sim Racing driver, P26 overall, ahead of Jonathan Collins, with both drivers today enjoying some great results. Daniel Downing comes on through for P28 in a difficult end to his racing today for Goldwing Motorsport. We then do have a further 14 seconds behind a man who hasn't given up despite it not going the way he's wanted it to in any of the races. It's the number 66 driver of Mark Sykes and NXTGEN with Sam Cases, and as he comes to the timeline, we then will have what is Duncan Rise coming on through in the Goldwing Motorsport South African 33 Honda Civic Type R to take P30 ahead of Lee Horn. And then it will be James Spencer-Scow, who's a bit further back and right now making his way on down Allman up towards Sunset Bend. As these guys celebrate finishing their final race of the day, what we do see here, James Spencer-Scow coming to the line as well for Aztec Racing in a difficult day today for the team. They've definitely been involved in a few scraps and bumps, there's no doubt about it, but still that's the way it's gone for them here at Sebring International Raceway. And he'll be on home P32 ahead of what will be, as he rides all the way as far as close as possible to the wall, Daniel Martin P33. And well, for Daniel Martin, a solid drive, and the fastest lap of the race falls to him on what was a 2:14.61 today, ahead of Alan McCain, who will be your final lead lap finisher. Paul Scott being the only driver further behind, I believe, not to make it to the grid in this race or to retire after one lap of racing. But as all the drivers come on through to their cool-down laps and into the pits, Brabham Esports is Luciano Vitford, and I can see there a number of you cheering on and celebrating Luciano's achievements today. A great drive from the Brabham Esports driver. He's had some difficult rounds recently, but he's back on the top step twice today, plus a pole position that nobody can beat, and with the number 60 driver definitely earning the mark of one of the biggest scorers here. Ian Manners behind as well, a season and career best performance, a P2 overall, and pulls down a touch as well, a driver who should not be understated. He has fought hard for his first podium of this season, and he's finally achieved it for Affinity on what has been the, I do believe, the 24th time of trying. Alex Meredith in the end taking what was the win in the Pro-Am class. All the drivers make the way into the pit lane, and as they do, not too many more eyes at Doble just behind him, and Savanos as well making it another podium. But as everybody settles on down, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see, after night fell and race number 3 completed for round number 8 of season 5 of the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing and powered by IMB Racewear, Luciano Vitford making it a race win in 1 and a race win in race number 3, and the Brabham Esports driver absolutely delivered after taking the lead and never looking back. Ian Manners, P2 there for JW Motorsport, not quite able to convert that reverse grid pole into a win, but still playing the tactics right, letting Vitford go, and in the end opting to focus on that P2 finish. He had to work hard for it, with the Prime scrambling like mad to get past him, but he held them off by the dozen, and in the end held off as well, pulls Zanatachi to take that second place spot on the podium. Behind the JW Motorsport driver, Affinity's Paul Zanatachi taking his first podium of the season. Indeed, we've seen a couple of top 5s, but never a podium. He's always fallen short, but today he hasn't fallen short, and he's delivered. And it's great to see him up there in number 14, ahead of Alex Meredith, your winner in the Pro-Am class there, fighting hard, and I think putting his parents and indeed all his friends tuning in with their hairs on end after he was fighting hard for that 3rd place spot on the overall podium, but in the end deciding to settle for 4th place overall and taking a Pro-Am win, much deserved for RD Simsport ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Isaac Doble, and credit where it's due to the 65 driver. He had to push hard and fast through the P5, and in the end, with all the pressure on, taking home what is his best overall result of the season, plus also another podium in the Pro-Am class, and that Pro-Am Championship crown seems to only be coming closer for the Doble Sim Racing driver. Jamie Dory P6 for Next Gen at Pink in a great race to end his day today, ahead of Sam Van Olst, P7 there for Goldwing Motorsport, completing the Pro-Am podium of Meredith, Isaac Doble and Van Olst, and then Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, I think sacrificing his potential overall finishing position in the end for the greater good of teammate and younger brother Isaac Doble, but also a P8 there and some great points in his hands, ahead of Gavin Garner for Next Gen Pink, and iRacing Esports is Andrew Pike, who in the end completed your overall top 10. Martin Shirley P11 for RD Simsport ahead of Adam Delman, with the SRL Next Gen drive fighting hard versus what was the combination of Joseph Sabula, Martin Shirley and Reese Watt, albeit a late instant in costing Watt dear, we'll come to him in a second, but Sabula P13 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, and then Matthew Addy P15 there, P4 in the Pro-Am class, and good to see him back in the top 5 of the class and holding off Aztec Racing's Matthew Sheraton and Luke Jones at the line. Next Gen with Sam Casey's driver in the end, leading that trio with JW Motorsport's Reese Watt P18. And then as we come to the end of that top 20, with Reese Watt having an unfortunate late instant that cost him very dear, Nick Clemens P19 ahead of Harley Bicknell, who picks up a season best P7 in the Pro-Am class for JW Motorsport, and with that he'll be absolutely pleased as punch. Piotr Jezlewski as well, a season best P21 overall and P8 in Pro-Am for Semper Racing ahead of Crest Autosport's Alex Everett, with Jay Calais, Joseph Doe and Ben Altrier completing your top 25, and Craig Tillotson at P26 ahead of Jonathan Collins, with Daniel Downing P28 ahead of Mark Sykes and Duncan Rice to complete your top 30. Lee Horn P31 ahead of James Franciscal, with RD Simsport's Daniel Martin in the end starting from towards the back of the field when the race got underway, and in at the end and to focus more on what was trying to snatch away that fastest lap point, and that he's done for RD Simsport, ahead of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, and then Paul Scott, last but not least, retiring after what was one lap of racing due to an unfortunate early instant. 35 starters, only what was one retiree who'll be classified as a non-finisher for not completing over half the race distance, and 34 finishers on the lead lap. Well, goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race to wrap up our racing here at Sebring International Raceway. And I think we can all agree that this circuit, making its debut on the NXTCC calendar for this season is a circuit that's definitely delivered, and I think we can all agree as well that we'd love to come back here to the US state of Florida to race here at one of the American greats once again in the future NXTCC season, because goodness me, has it delivered the racing. Now, whilst we have delivered all of our racing today, indeed there'll be no more racing action, we also still do have our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers coming up, ladies and gentlemen, so don't go anywhere, because if you want to hear the thoughts of our drivers from up and down the grid, we will be hearing from them in approximately 12 minutes time, and we're back for those interviews very shortly, and we'll see you very soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are back for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And today we're going to be hearing from 3 of our pro-class drivers, including Reece Watt from JW Motorsport, who despite his results found himself battling towards the top end of the field throughout, inside the overall top 15. Mikey Doble, the double sim racing driver, P2 in the championship going into tonight, and with an open door opportunity to try and swing for P1 in the championship in the absence of Wojciech Swirydowicz. And then we're going to be hearing from Semper Racing's Jaroslav Sebula, the pro driver who we heard from in the transition from race 1 to race 2, and we're going to be hearing his thoughts on what has been a challenging but a positive night for number 81 driver. Now, as we do get set for our first interviewee, we're going to be hearing from Reece Watt, and he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Reece. It looked as though Sebring was going to be challenging for everyone out there, but for yourself today, despite the results not going your way, it looked as though you had plenty of battle in action and perhaps a couple of missed opportunities in terms of points.
Yeah, definitely. The battling up and down the field was brilliant, and it's just a really good track for it. I think these cars really suit it. And there's plenty of corners where you can go too wide, and obviously the first and second corners are quite tricky on the brakes, but I felt like I was getting a nice bit of advantage there amongst the cars around me. But yeah, I've had a decent race 1. I think I kind of hung around where I qualified, but then yeah, going into race 2, worked my way up, but just caught up in a few incidents, and yeah, just sent us all the way back for race 3.
Indeed, it was an unfortunate way the race played out between race 2 and how it set you up for race number 3. But starting off with some of the early challenges, qualifying is always going to be tough at any venue we visit because, of course, we're seeing gaps of the field all the way down to a second between the pole position lap and what is P30 or so. P19 for yourself in qualifying. How did you find qualifying? Was there a bit more out there?
Yeah, it was definitely. I think probably had about another 5/10 in there, but it's track position, isn't it? And it's like trying to find the space, and I just got unfortunate with traffic. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. I got a banker in, and that kept me in a fairly decent position, I guess, right in the midfield. But yeah, it was a shame I couldn't get a bit further up in the qualifying, because I think there could have been better positions for the later races.
I have to ask, in qualifying or even the racing as well, one of the big themes of this Sebring circuit being its road surface transitions, where you're racing on more modern asphalt versus the old school concrete slabs. I mean, for you as a driver in the Audi RS3, a car which is quite sensitive to bumps in the road by default, how have you found it racing over those road surface changes, particularly on the, say, the last corner at Sunset and going into turns 1 and 2?
Well, first of all, I love it. It is tricky, it is bumpy, but it's just all about balancing it with the brakes and not trying to get too much cock on the wheel. It's just, you're almost 4-wheel sliding it all the way through. And when you get it right, it just feels really sweet. So I do really enjoy it, and the bumps obviously and the asphalt provide another bit of a challenge, but it's just trying to get it slowed for the apex and being able to get that good exit out for that pit straight.
Oh, I see. And on the basis of that, of course, race number 1, like you say, a good starting position of P19, P14 come the end of it, and very early on you're having to demonstrate the right places to attack versus the places to sit behind and just simply wait or defend.
Yeah, it's quite tricky. I think there's a lot of opportunities that can come up through maybe a mistake or someone else being out of position because another car's made a move. So there's a lot of places where you can get your nose in and put someone offline and maybe get a chance to overtake. But most of the time, I think the spots I was eyeing up was the last corner and possibly the first corner. I felt if I did make a move on anyone midway through the lap, it tended to be side by side quite a bit, and you could then end up losing the toe to the guys up ahead, because you tend to lose time. So it was trying to be strategic in your moves and making sure that the move's not going to be a detriment to you after you get past as well.
Oh, Oh, understandable there, and like you say, whether you go for the move and then lose out on your rolls in front, or play the patience game and wait till a little bit later on. And whilst you showed both an equal measure in race number 1, race number 2 saw you start off very strongly, making some further progress. But as the race went on, and also we did have the safety car as well, which interrupted things, on the restart, it looked as though things were going your way, and then a bit of a nasty shun.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 3 rounds have been a blur. So absolute awesome flurry of races. So I can't actually remember how the accident in race 2 happened, but yeah, I seemed to get a good restart. I was in a decent position. Yes, I remember it was a little incident with Lee Horn to begin with, and then just got maybe squeezed Ben a bit too much. Hadn't realised he was there, and I just got turned across his front end. But I think it was just at that point, it was just really slow racing. I mean, really intense racing. So there was a lot of cars. I think it was about 5 or 6 cars trying to battle for space on the track, and yeah, it was just unfortunate. Just one of those weeks, but had a great battle with a lot of drivers out there tonight. So despite being turned and not finishing the race where I'd like to, I think it was really enjoyable and really good fun.
Oh, without a doubt. And if you had fun in the car all the way through, we definitely had a huge amount of fun here in the commentary booth, and of course for our spectators that tuned in across the broadcast streams. And just a quick word on race number 3, Indians recovering quite nicely to P18. I mean, there was still plenty of battling ongoing, plus also you had plenty of primes all eager to keep you behind for the majority of the race, albeit I sense perhaps there could have been a top 15 on the cards if it weren't for another bit of an unfortunate incident. But still, again, on the theme of what was hard, fast, and mostly fair racing.
Yeah, I think it is, again, unfortunate. Going into turn 2, spotted an opportunities. Martin got forced out wide from another move, so I tried to sneak up the inside, give as much room, but it was too squeezed, and I think the iRacing physics sometimes just makes the car behave how you don't expect, especially when you're on a curb. So yeah, it spun me round, and I think it was a great recovery drive, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm not sure what position it could have been, but I think I was in about 14th at the time, so I think I was about to gain 2 positions at that point. So yeah, it would have been great, but I think I couldn't believe I actually finished 18th, because I thought I spun out, so I thought the whole field would have gone by, but maybe something happened with the field, the bottom half of the field, that's give us enough of a gap to be able to finish in 18th.
Well, still, it was absolutely intense, and like you say, to finish P18 despite the incident which saw you turn to the wrong way coming out the turn 7 hairpin is a testament to the fighting spirit from yourself all the way through today. And of course, only 2 rounds remain. In a week's time, we make our way to Silverstone, and for the first time in the NXTCC's history, we take on the Grand Prix layout of the venerable British circuit. How are you feeling for a visit to one of your home circuits?
Yeah, I really enjoy Silverstone. Quite wide, very flat, and again, I think some tricky corners that you've got to be really light with the brakes. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's plenty of room to allow for some side-by-side action. So yeah, I think it's going to be another good week.
Oh, no doubt about it. And for yourself and the team at JW Motorsports, of course, it's now coming down to a bit of crunch time in the championship. You guys are currently fighting for what is a right to be inside the top 10 of the team's championship versus Goldwing Motorsport and also Full Tilt V Motorsport. You came into this round in P11. It looks as though the points are going to stay about level at this time. But how's the mood in the camp?
It's definitely a target for us. We've had a few unfortunate races for a few of us. I think the main aim is just to get to finish these races at the minute, and yeah, get across the finish line in one piece, and hopefully concentrating on that, the points will come, because I believe the guys have got some good pace to bring home some points. So yeah, I think we're out here to have fun and try to that is a nice target for us, and I think we're going for it. And Ian did very well collecting that P2 in that final race. So I'm sure that haul of points has helped us out quite a bit.
Oh, most definitely, and we're enjoying watching yourself and the wider team fighting in that team's championship together, and will long may the high spirits continue when we go to Silverstone in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Reese, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, teammates obviously, Harley, Luke and Ian, keeping us company throughout the races. The NXTGEN admin, always doing a fantastic job. Can't be easy to run this league, so it's fantastic as always. And to yourself as well, Paul. So always great commentary. Love watching these back, and yeah, that's it.
Well, Reese, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. Whilst the results may not have gone the way you wanted to today, you definitely put on an absolute spectacle when it came to some superb racing in all 3 races. We look forward to plenty more from yourself at Silverstone in a week's time, and indeed from the wider team as you guys chase after a top 10 finish in the team's championship. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thank you.
So hearing there from Reese Watt, the JW Motorsport driver, definitely sounds as though he threw everything on the table today and quite tired as a result. Indeed, qualifying, seeing him qualify quite comfortably inside the midfield there, and talking about the fact whilst there was more time on the table to start P19 in a field this close is still a positive indeed. It firmly puts you right in there, and it sounds odd in a field of 40 cars to say P19 is an achievement, but it is in the upper half, and when the top 30 was separated by what was just shy of 1 second and a tenth, well, being right slap bang in the middle of it, that goes to show just how important it is. Every thousandth counts. And going into race number 1, making some great progress. And talking about the upward trend as we went into race number 2, albeit the late incident, and particularly after the safety car in the closing stages when the racing got very intense indeed, compromising the progress made by the JW Motorsport driver, but not giving up with a P33 start in the final race of the day and fighting through to what was going to potentially be a top 15, only for that late instant, or the early instant we should really say, at the turn 7 hairpin, scuppering that progress and then seeing him have to recover once again to P18, but then again really embodying the attitude of never give up, never surrender, and that's why Reese Watt and the JW Motorsport team continue to push forward, and they've had some great achievements this season, and particularly today with what was Ian Manners' first ever second place overall in the final race, and of course Harley Bicknell picking up his season at best prime finish of P7 and what was also season best overall finish in the final race of P20. The team are pushing all fronts, both in the drivers and also the team's championship, and we look forward to seeing how they do at Silverstone a week from today. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our second interviewee, and well, that is going to be none other than Mikey Doble, who joins us very shortly, and we're going to be hearing from the man who definitely today needs to do a lot in order to cut down the advantage of his championship rival, and we'll have to see what exactly the damage has been done in terms of Swirydowicz's lead come the end of this broadcast. But as Mikey gets ready to join me in the interview room, we're going to be hearing his thoughts on what has definitely been 3 challenging races. And as he joins me now in the interview room, good evening to you, Mikey, and goodness me, it has been some time since we last caught up with yourself, but the racing today looked absolutely terrific, it must be said. And well, whilst it was a difficult qualifying session with that success buzz, by the time the weight was taken out of the car in race number 2, you're back to your old form. We saw some very fine racing from yourself. How do you find it out there?
Yeah, absolutely. As always, it's a bit of an up and down evening, but yeah, I really enjoyed the racing around here tonight. So I only bought the track about half an hour before practice started, so I didn't really know what to expect. But I think it suited the cars well, and you know, the racing was really close. It's clean for the most part, and yeah, there's a good variation of corners as well around this track. So yeah, I definitely vote to come back here again.
Without a doubt, I think many would agree with you on that, including spectators and also fellow drivers. But talking about your evening, of course, in a little bit more detail, appreciate you didn't have too much time to get acquainted with the circuit. And given the fact that you did only purchase the circuit half an hour before practice, but in qualifying a P22 and again a top what was 30 separated by just over a second here at Sebring, one of our longest circuits on the calendar, but so closely packed, and to find yourself right in the middle of it, a positive qualifying result as a result?
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's positive, but with the absence of Wojciech tonight, I was the heaviest car out on track for qualifying in race 1, so I kind of didn't expect to be too far up the pecking order. I was kind of hoping for a top 15, but wasn't to be. I didn't quite get the right tow that I needed to help me along with that extra ballast I was carrying. And then as soon as I got out into race 1, I put in a lap time that probably would have been good enough to put me up towards the 12th or 13th position. So yeah, it was definitely not where I anticipated on qualifying, but you know, it was about making a clean start and having a clean race 1 to make sure I'm in a position to get some points later on in the evening.
Oh, without a doubt, and appreciate the logic there with regards to how the race is developing, indeed the points aspiration. And talking about race number 1, we saw you fight through the field and gain 6 places to P16. And from hearing from Reese only moments ago, he was talking about the fact that racing around here, you really had to pick your places to overtake. But I can imagine for yourself that whilst there might have been certain corners you're more willing to make moves at, given there are only 9 laps available, you had to make those moves happen quick and fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key to overtaking around here is you kind of want to plan your move 2 to 3 corners in advance. You know, you've got to kind of think, if I can place the car here through this section of corners, then it's going to give me a better run out onto the straight to potentially make a move down into the following corner. And quite often someone would go for a move around this track and it's very difficult to complete the move because the outside car can hang in there on the outside and then you're side by side down the next straight. So if you're a car that's behind the battle, you can be opportunistic and try and you know, follow someone else through as they try to make an overtake in front of you. So it's all about trying to take advantage of other people's either mistakes or overtakes if you want, but also, like you say, just trying to pick and choose where you overtake, because it's a very quirky track. There's some narrow corners, some very wide corners, and it's a lot of opportunity to make mistakes. So I think, yeah, I mean, for the most part the racing was pretty clean and there wasn't too many kamikaze moves out there. But yeah, I definitely agree with what you said there.
And we're looking ahead to race number 2, of course, and looking to continue that upward trend. We saw as the top 11 at reverse grid, one of our largest numbers for race number 2. Of course, not being part of the grid, but it meant early on in the race, after making some initial places, you started to find some old rivals and foes in front of you, and it didn't stop you from carving your way through, even with a safety car.
Yeah, I think if anything, the safety car might hurt me a little bit, because it was, you know, I was absolutely flying in race 2, having shedded all of the ballast, so I was running the base setup, and I actually made an adjustment to the brake balance for race 2, which I found suited the track a lot more than the normal brake balance I would run at the other tracks. So I was really coming in with a head of steam there, and whilst I didn't want to make any contact whilst coming through the field, which was going to hurt the performance of my car, I was making a lot of ground there towards the end, and I think maybe if I'd have had another couple of laps, so maybe if that safety car hadn't have come out, I might have even had a chance of catching the lead battle. But I was more than happy with P4 coming from 16th on the grid, considering as well that one of my main championship rivals had actually had a bit of a mare and finished back in what I believe was in the 20s somewhere. So.
Oh, indeed. Your gain and your rivals' loss. It was all looking upwards going on through race number 2, and then going into race number 3, a P8 finish in the end after what was a top 17 reverse grid. You started in what was P14, if my memory serves me correctly, and well, the racing again was absolutely intense, but also an additional element as you came through the field, which was your younger brother and teammate Wojciech Doble, I think, being just in front of you, and also needing perhaps a little bit of support just to fend off what was the charge of Sam Van Olst in the Pram class.
Yeah, I mean, race 3 was a very tough battle for what was the 6th place for the most part, and I managed to pick a few positions off, and still carrying a fair amount of ballast in race 3 with P4 ballast. but it wasn't too much that I couldn't make some progress from my grid position. So when I got up to the back of Isaac, obviously Sam is another Pro-Am runner, so with Isaac being in the position he is, I wanted to try and help him out a little bit and not put him in a vulnerable position. So I thought if I could get past Sam, and he was putting up a very strong fight, to be fair to him. It took me a couple of laps to get past him, but then there was no chance of me catching anyone else ahead of Isaac, so I just elected to stay behind him and try and act as a bit of a rear gunner for him to the chasing pack. But unfortunately, with Jamie's damage on the last lap there, he kind of backed everyone up into one big gaggle on the last lap, and it was kind of every man for himself on the last lap. But Sam did manage to come around the outside of me on the last corner, but I wasn't really fussed about one position in the grand scheme of things, where, you know, if we tried to be over aggressive, you know, we could end up losing another 10 positions or something with contact. But yeah, it was nice to help out a teammate there, and help Isaac consolidate his championship lead in the Pro-Ams, and see him get a top 5 finish in the last race.
Oh, no question about it there, and indeed some fantastic teamwork being demonstrated. And whilst it was a bit of a small sacrifice for yourself, like you say, better to lose perhaps 1 or 2 places rather than risk losing 10. Of course, that it does mean the results from today as you continue to chase after Wojciech Swirydowicz. We've only got 2 rounds remaining. In a week's time we head to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and with rounds running out, how are you feeling for the racing in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it, actually. It's nice to finish the season on a couple of British tracks that we all know very well. I think that, selfishly, I think that I've got a bit more of an advantage than some other people, having done so much real life racing at these tracks, particularly around Donington. I've done some racing around the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone before, but I think like Brands Hatch at the beginning of the season started really strong with a pole position and a win and a 2nd place. So hopefully I can tap into some of that local knowledge that I've had from previous experience at these tracks and take home what would be a third title, touring car title.
Oh, most definitely, and of course that's why the big questions we're all looking to see whether you could answer it successfully and take that 3rd title and become our first ever 3-time NXTCC champion. Well, the story will continue a week from today, but just before we do let you go, Mikey, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yes, everyone at NXTGEN for continuing to put on such a great league. Still astounded by how good the standard is getting now, and I think it's firmly on the map in the world of sim racing, particularly for touring car leagues. To yourself, as always, for a fantastic broadcast, and to any family members that are still up watching the broadcast and enjoying the coverage. So looking forward to next week.
Well, Mikey, we look 100% forward to seeing how you get on in your continued challenge for that championship crown at Silverstone in a week's time. But until then, congratulations on your performances today, and well, good haul of points coming your way. And will it continue at Silverstone? Well, we'll find out then. But until then, thank you for joining us and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Yep, thanks, Paul. See you later.
So hearing there from 2-time champion and defending champion Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, and interesting his thoughts there, particularly with regards to assessing qualifying and the thought process of the fact that going into tonight with the absence of his rival Swirydowicz, Wojciech Swirydowicz in full name, therefore being the heaviest car and looking to try and put the car inside the top 15. And whilst there was limited practice involved, knowing that going into the race he hadn't quite put the time down he wanted, and well, admitting that when he went into race number 1, immediately setting a much stronger lap, which would have been good enough to be inside the top 15. So a missed opportunity there, and arguably could it have been some missed points as well in race 1 was the big what if question. But still, being down to the matter of fact statements, and that was gaining place in race number 1, and talking out the whole concept of trying to make overtakes by planning moves multiple corners in advance. And what we saw time and time again, multiple side-by-sides between drivers that would run for even half, if not the entirety of the lap, and therefore that planning being very important. And going through the race 2 and race 3, no weight in the car for race number 2. and immediately visible as Mikey tore his way up towards a P4 finishing in, and talking about the safety car really limiting the progress and potentially the opportunity to go hunting after the podium, if not the win. But still, the safety car happened and Neville having to go with the flow. And in race number 3, whilst there was some success balancing the car, still making progress and then working to support his teammate Wojciech Doble, who in the end came on home with what was second place in the prime class, fending off Samberdost, and will Mikey sacrificing a couple of places in order to assist his teammate in the Prime Championship and also ensure the team got the best possible point across the Teams Championship. Well, 2 rounds to go, and indeed head back to British circuits, where Mikey will have some real life experience to go alongside his simulator experience. And could that be what gives him a bit of leverage and an advantage in the final 2 rounds? We'll have to see, starting at Silverstone in a week's time. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our final interview of today, and well, we're going to be hearing from another pro, and it will be in the form of Jaroslav Sabula, who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And well, when we do hear from it, it's going to be interesting to hear his thoughts on what have definitely been 3 challenging races in their own right for the Semper Racing driver, but at the same time as well, I think enjoying it all the way through, at least after when we spoke to him after race number 1 and his aspirations to race number 2. Well, he does join me now in the interview room. Good evening to you once again, Jaroslav. Of course, we caught up with you after race number 1, but now the racing is over. I mean, what was a 2nd place in race number 2, 13th in race number 3, to add to that 7th place in race number 1. It's been a relatively successful night for yourself, would you say?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, it was actually another good round for me, I guess. Yeah, qualifying P4 was really good for me. Then not so good race number 1 because I kind of lost 3 positions and finished on P7, so that wasn't really great. But that made me a good reverse grid, and I was a bit of lucky as well with the traffic, and at the end I was able to fight for the win. I could say I nearly won it, but then we had a small touch with Benjamin, and I decided to give him the position back instead of risking the penalty. So that was a good race, and then there was a crazy race number 3. Absolutely crazy, loads of battles, loads of fights, traffic all over. It was great fun.
Oh, without a doubt, I can definitely hear the enthusiasm in your voice there for the latter races and the fun that was had. Coming back to qualifying just briefly, a P4 overall in such a packed qualifying field. I mean, we talk week in, week out about how close it is in qualifying, and whilst we haven't seen you pick up a pole position this season, and a P4 has been one of your best performances, I mean, the Sebring circuit, it does seem as though even the tiniest of mistakes can be the difference between you being on pole or you being outside the top 10. But for yourself around here, how have you found Sebring? Is it a circuit that you enjoy?
Oh, I do enjoy it a lot, yes. It's one of my favorite track. But the competition here is really close, so everybody is, sometimes 2-3 tenths makes a couple of positions left loose. So if there is a one corner when you're struggling a little bit, then the whole lap sometimes can be going to the bin. So yeah, that's the way it is.
Oh, indeed. And we talked about race number 1 earlier on when we caught up with you, so we won't talk too much about it, but let's talk a little bit more about race number 2. Of course, what was a P7 finish in race number 1, and then an 11th place reverse grid meant that you would start in what was effectively, I do believe, at P6 for the 2nd race a day. And whilst the traffic was a little bit stern at first, you found your way through to P2 eventually and started to fight with Benjamin McCluskey in what was a thriller for the best part of 5 laps.
Yeah, it was really a great battle with Benjamin, and there is a good bit of draft here, so I could use that. And I guess we had a very similar pace, but because of the draft, I could get closer and closer, and then I was trying once, I think, to overtake him a lap before, but that didn't work, and that put me a little bit back, like half a second or something like that. So I had to wait. Well, I had to trying to get closer for like another lap, and then on the last lap I managed to kind of made the move stick, and yeah, that was nearly okay. But I actually didn't see, because when the contact happened, my head, I am driving in VR, so I don't really have much of a peripheral vision. So my head was turned to the left, and I didn't see actually him going sideways. I just hear the tires that kind of indicated me that he's going sideways, but I didn't feel anything. And then when I finally overtook me, he flashed his lights. So I was like, maybe something happened there, and I didn't want to risk the penalty. So I gave the position back. But yeah, that's the way it is. And actually, I have to say a big thank you to you, because you saved my whole result on this round. Because when I was on practice session, that time when you put me on interview, I forgot to change my setup, and just the last thing you said, it was that my weight for the next race will be a bit better, and then I was like, oh Jesus, I didn't change the setup. So, so yeah, the whole result is actually made by you.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I'm very glad you're able to put the right weight in the car and the right setup on the car for race number 2. We'll put that down to a little bit of luck, but at the same time, it led to some fantastic racing. And to be fair, I mean, the sportsmanship you showed at the end of race 2, not knowing whether you'd made contact with Benjamin, alternatively it was netcode or something else entirely, it's testament to the sportsmanship and the level of racing you've brought to the field this season. I have to ask for yourself and the Semper racing team. Appreciate Wojciech wasn't on the grid today, but we've seen that Piotr having fun further down the order as well. I mean, it looks as though you're all absolutely loving being a part of the NXTCC grid.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. At the moment, I think NXTCC is the only place you can be if it comes about touring racing. So, and the touring racing always brings a lot of action. And if it is that level of competition, it's like everybody is within the tenths of a second. So, yeah, we really do like it. Before we used to do quite a good bit of endurance races, like that maybe 2-3 years ago. But now then we switched to touring car racing, and we get Wojciech as well. And this is how we actually stick to touring cars for a good while now.
We're really glad to hear how much yourself and the team are enjoying the race, and the fact that you've all come from what is slightly different backgrounds in terms of endurance racing, or like you say, Wojciech, with quite a lot of touring car experience and absolutely giving it everything here. And speaking about giving it everything, from a second place in race number 2 to a P16 at reverse grid start for race number 3, you may not have made much progress in race 3, but goodness me, the fighting was absolutely intense. And in particular, we're seeing you right now in the replay footage battling hard with Gavin Gardner and spending sometimes almost the entirety of a lap side by side at Sebring. I mean, the respect between the two of you is absolutely phenomenal, but also the confidence to go side by side at a circuit that's bumpy, it's tight, and it's night time as well. I mean, how do you guys do it?
I don't know, I think it comes with the experience. And actually, well, I am on iRacing for like, I don't know, maybe 4 years now or something like that, and doing touring cars for maybe a year or two, and I actually do feel a lot more confident than I used to do before. And the touring cars is great for that, because there is almost every race, it's something natural actually that you have cars beside you or behind, in front, while in the other classes it's not something which happens all the time. You have that in the beginning, and then you drive your line and you're following somebody, or somebody is following you, but there is not as much fight. So I guess that Gavin is an experienced driver as well. So yeah, I was quite confident, and I was quite confident with who I was racing with. So we can put a good show together, and it was really great fun for us as well.
Oh, no question about it, like you say, and I can see Dan M there, I believe that's Daniel Martin in the YouTube chat, saying well done to yourself for the performances and the racing today. And indeed,
Thank you.
the results from yourself here continue the trend where you've been putting in some stellar drives, and it means that provisionally you stand P4 in the overall championship with 2 rounds remaining. You're right on the heels of Daniel Martin as well by 6 points. I mean, surely the belief's got to be that you can finish inside the top 3, perhaps even make it a 1-2 alongside teammate Swirydowicz now for the end of the season?
Well, we will see. I think Daniel has a better pace generally than me, so it's going to be difficult, but you never know. You know, sometimes luck is a big factor as well, and usually I am trying to take it easy. So I think that the overall good result which I have now, P4, is not really coming from my great pace, but it's good, but it's not. I don't think it's as good as I think there is few drivers who are faster than me, but they are behind in point tables. But I usually just trying to take as much as I can, and don't risk too much unless I have to. And it is going to be difficult for me to go for P3 or in a podium position, but you never know. Actually, before the season, my target was just to be in a top 10. So I'm quite surprised that I am on P4 at the moment.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear that you're already breaking at your own targets for this season and chasing down a top 5 finish, perhaps even a top 3 finish. And like you say, you may not have the pace of some of your peers, but you definitely have the consistency and the safe approach to the racing, which has made you such a force to be contended with. And will 2 rounds remain. In a week's time, we head to Silverstone for the full Grand Prix layout. How are you feeling for the British circuit?
Yeah, looking forward for them. Especially Donington. Silverstone is not really my favorite for the touring cars, but yeah, it's fast, so it's going to be a lot of action. I'm sure about that. So yeah, looking forward for it and looking forward for a good season ending.
We look forward to seeing plenty from yourself in the final 2 rounds of the season. But just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, as always, for all of you in NXTGEN for keep the league running and doing such a great job, and for a whole Semper Racing team. So yeah, that's it. Big shout out to all of you guys.
Well, Jaroslav, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room as always. 4 great performances as well tonight to wrap up a great day at Sebring for yourself and the Semper Racing team. We look forward to seeing what comes at Silverstone in the run into the final 2 rounds in the United Kingdom. But until then, thank you for joining me in the interview room, and we'll see you in a week's time in the UK.
Thank you, Paul. Bye.
So hearing it there from our final interview of today, Jaroslav Sebring, number 81 driver. And whilst we didn't dwell too much on qualifying or race number 1, but talking about the fact and then qualifying, Sebring being a circuit that he does thoroughly enjoy, and that enjoyment showing through with that P4 qualifying position. And interesting the fact that our pole sitter of Luciano Vitford taking pole by 2.5 attempts. We then of course had the two drivers together in P2, P3 of what was the pairing of, I do believe, of Daniel Martin and Alan McCain, separated by only what was 2.5 hundredths. And then Jaroslav being in 4th place and really leading the rest of the field in the long run back, all the way back to what was P20 in terms of drivers being separated by bare slivers of time. And the point being here in the fact that by taking that P4, set himself up for a strong start. Race number 1 not going his way and openly admitted a bit of a disappointment, losing 3 places to where he started, but coming back strong for race number 2. And whilst the traffic held him at bay to a degree, being able to fight its way through it and fight for the win, and the sportsmanship being shown, and talking out there the fact he didn't know what had happened, and all he knew is that he'd heard the tyre screech of McCluskey's car, Benjamin McCluskey that is, and decided to give the place back in case a penalty was going to come his way. And also the funny anecdote there of the fact that if we hadn't spoken to him in the build up to race number 2, that he may have forgot to put the right setup on the car and had perhaps been disqualified after the race had finished for race number 2. Well, we'll definitely put that one down to fortune there, but still, that's one for the NXTCC annals, there's no doubt about it. And then coming into race number 3, starting P16 and openly talking about the fact, whilst he may not have made much progress, the fact that he can have the confidence to trust the drivers around him, particularly Gavin in this instance, and enjoy the fighting all the way through. It may have only been a P13 finish and only a couple of points, but still, it's a couple of points that were hard earned, and with that, the Semper Racing driver ending Sebring on a high, and with 2 rounds to go, mentioning that he's not truly looking forward to Silverstone as much as Donington, but still going to give it his all, and already above his target of finishing inside the top 10 come the end of this season. Well, could he finish inside the top 3? Could he even perhaps be runner-up to teammate from Semper Racing of Wojciech Swirydowicz? We'll have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen. 2 rounds to go and anything's possible. Well, the number 81 driver will definitely believe that as well and take it 1 race at a time. But with that, that concludes our interviews for today. And we have heard from, firstly, Reese Watt from JW Motorsport, the number 32 driver. Before coming on to the number 88 driver, our 2-time champion Mikey Doble from Doble Sim Racing. And we just heard from Semper Racing's Jasper Sabila in the 81. All 3 drivers in the Pro class, of course. Congratulations to all of them on their brilliant performances today. And thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, now let's give you an update on the championship standings, the provisional top 15s of both the overall and Prime Drivers Championships after this round of racing. And as we can see here, starting with the overall championship, despite his absence today, drop scores being an effect, of course, it does mean that this round becomes Wojciech Swirydowicz's full drop score of 0 points across the board, and therefore standing tall on 776 points. He's actually gained, well, in fact, he's not gained, he's lost out slightly versus Mikey Doble, with the advantage now coming down to only 14 points, but Doble making small gains, but it's those marginal gains which will bring him closer and closer, and with 2 rounds to go, well, he'll look to continue to gain as quickly as possible. Daniel Martin, meanwhile, falls to P3. They're a bit further back from Mikey Doble since coming into this round. Now on 719 points, under an unfortunate day for the RD Simsport driver, but still fighting hard and still with an outside chance of taking the championship crown. And with 6 points over Jaroslav Sabula, the battle for P3 rages on. Jamie Dory sits P5 there, and a confident P5 after what was a miraculous drive to finish the race in the final race of today, ahead of Benjamin McCluskey by 4 points. But notice there how the field tightens incredibly in what is the bottom half of the top 10. From McCluskey to Adam Delmont, it's only 7 points. And then it is the best part of what is there. 61 points to Dan Mould, but that's a round of racing with Joseph Doble equal in points to Dan Mould, and then Paul Zanatachi only 2 points behind, and finally breaking his way into the top 10 after what was that key 3rd place finish in the final race here at Sebring. Gavin Garner falls to P11 conversely, having had a difficult race number 1, race number 2, and some marginal points in race number 3, but you can imagine he'll be back on form in a week's time as well to try and right the wrongs and make his way back into the top 10. And then Lee Horn sitting in P12 and 451 points. He's only 5 points clear of the driver who picked up the biggest points gain today in overall of Luciano Vitford. And then we have Isaac Doble, the sole prime driver inside this top 15. The overall stands P14 and 434, ahead of William Guthrie, who didn't quite pick up the points in races 2 and 3 and holds on to a slender position inside the top 15. Meanwhile, in the Prime class, when we adjust the scores for the IMB Racewear Championship, it is Isaac Doble who leads the way there, as may be seen by apart from 924 points to the 833 of Daniel Downing. It does seem as though the championship is going more and more the way of Isaac Doble, and I do believe some drivers may think it's already gone to him, although we can confirm it's not over yet, and these are provisional as well, so they may be adjusted for post-round penalties and points adjustments accordingly, but Isaac Doble right now just needs a solid performance at Silverstone in order to be able to pretty much put one hand on the title. But be rest assured, Daniel Downing and Alex Meredith will be very eager, not just to fight each other, but also to make the championship go all the way to the wire at Donington Park. And with Matthew Addy also on the rise, picking up 110 points, much like Ben Altria, all those two are also in the mix for what is the fight to be runner-up, chasing after Alex Meredith and Daniel Downing in a closely knit battle. Sam Van Ulster as well, picking up the win in race number 2, plus also 2 great performances in races 1 and 3, means that he's moved up to P6 on 743 points, whereas Alan McCain has dropped slightly down to P7 after a difficult day towards the end in race number 3 in particular. 721 points to his name, but again, don't count him out, and that's why right now it is looking incredibly close for the P2 spot as a minimum here in the Prime class. Sam Smith, meanwhile, after what was a great drive to second place in race number 1, unfortunately not being on the grid for races 2 and 3 does mean he lost out some major points today and really has excluded himself for the best part of fighting for that top 3 slot now, albeit he does have a sizable gap over Matthew Cheverton still, who on 544 points struggles in races 1 and 2, but a good redemption there in race number 3. And he's been able to hold a 10-point advantage over Jay Clay, who moves back into the top 10 on 534 points. Duncan Rice, P11, 507. Well, he's looking to try and break into the top 10 once again come next week. There's no doubt about that. And it's Paul Scott, what is then Harlan Bicknell, followed by Luke Jones and Alex Everett, who complete your top 15. And the point being here, even outside the top 15, the fight is on hard. And Jones and Everett right now will be going toe-to-toe and both be chasing after what will be there. None other than Harley Bicknell going into next week's rounds of racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanted to know more about the Next Gen racing community in terms of the series we have ongoing and upcoming and everything we do in between, well, we firstly recommend you check out our official website. That's at nextgenracing.co.uk, and our website appearing on screen here is the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. And as we move into 2024, we continue to host leagues primarily on the iRacing simulator platform, albeit we do have our upcoming trial league on R Factor 2, our touring car league there. But the point being, we go from strength to strength in what is our 17th year of sim racing leagues, and we'd be more than happy to have you, whether you're a rookie or a seasoned esports professional. We'd love to have you join us on the grid for our racing series or just become part of the community. And indeed, we're all have a common thing, which is we're major fans of motorsport, both on the simulator and the real world, and Next Gen Racing is the #1 place to be if you're looking for a community that fosters and engenders a fair world of sim racing. But if you don't necessarily want to go to our website and find out more about our series and perhaps how you can join our official Discord, well, we also do have our official Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, where you can find out a little bit more behind the scenes about what we get up to at Next Gen when we're not necessarily on the sim racing circuit. We're a good number of our staff and admin members being real-life track marshals, volunteering their time on what is a monthly basis, and even some of us also being real-world motorsport drivers. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible. Excuse me, as I briefly lose my voice there. And that includes, but it's not limited to, PowerMax there, as we can see. Also, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Sam Cases UK, Douglas Motorsport, and Benchy Sim Photos. And how could we forget our title sponsor for this season, IMB Racewear, the sim racing and real-life racing racewear provider that prides itself on individuality with their fully custom designs, enabling you to make the impact you've always wanted to on track, as it is designed for you by you. Do head to their website, imbracewear.com, to find out more about IMB Racewear's fully customizable product range, which brings benefits you just cannot get from off-the-shelf products. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, 2 rounds remain, and in a week's time, round number 9 will see our drivers take to the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for the first time in the NXTCC's history. Indeed, it's the first time for many this season when it comes to circuits we're visiting or layouts of which we're visiting. But on Tuesday, the 16th of January 2024, we could theoretically crown our prime champion early in the form of Isaac Doble should results go his way and he carries on his form. But meanwhile, in the overall championship, with the expectation being that Wojciech Swirydowicz will be back on the grid and Mikey Doble has closed the delta, the fight between the 2 superstars at the front of the field continues to intensify, but let's not count out our drivers outside the top 2 who are still looking for the right to take the crown themselves, including Daniel Martin and Jazz Sasavula, who will bring home the big points at the heart of British motorsport and take the way today, not to Daytona, but to Donington Park on fine form and no momentum is on their side. We'll tune in next week to find out that and plenty more, but until then, we've been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit and a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay warm, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.